Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 12:30 right now. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, where we're following some breaking news right now out of East LA. A live picture from our NBC affiliate in Los Angeles, KNBC. This is where they are investigating an explosion at a training center from the LA Sheriff's Department there. Occurred around 7:30 this morning, and as you can see from the graphic, 3 deputies killed. Let's listen in on their coverage now live on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
And killed in an explosion at the LA Sheriff's Department Training Center this morning.
So that explosion happened right around 7:30 this morning, so 2 hours ago now, and our crew on the ground tells us that Sheriff Luna is heading to that facility now. We're expecting to get an update from him as soon as he starts speaking. Of course, we'll bring that to you. Right now, though, we want to get to Lauren Coronado, who is just outside the facility on the ground. Lauren.
Lynette, Adrian, we're getting more details second by second. In fact, I just spoke with a member of the LA County Sheriff's Department who tells me the arson and explosive detail group is the group who were training at the time of this explosion. So that's new information that we're learning here on the ground. And I got to let you know that we are seeing more sheriff's deputies, their units arriving minute by minute. One moment you'll see them turn the corner quickly up toward the facility. We're just off Eastern Avenue and Sheriff Road, by the way. There is a large crime scene. It started a little bit smaller. You might be able to see some of the yellow tape behind me, but they have expanded it up the way up Eastern Avenue right now. So if you are in this area, you will quickly see that there is some traffic starting to develop in the area because of this major road closure. Now, I did talk with some people who live in the area. They're making their way down this way because they want to know what's going on. And of course, they hear 3 deputies have died. They want to know more information about this. I asked them if they heard the explosion living so close to this facility. They tell me they didn't hear the explosion. They didn't feel the impact of the explosion. However, Adrian, I know you were saying that the fire department did, which isn't far from this training facility. So we are gathering more details right now, but we are seeing more of those resources roll in. We saw members of the ATF arrive not long ago, the bomb squad. This is what I'm talking about. Every so often you'll see one of the marked vehicles, in that case unmarked, but you'll see vehicles like this, a sheriff's deputy vehicle, turn the corner quickly as they head up that way for this very much active investigation, certainly ongoing. And of course, your heart just breaks for these deputies who are at the center of this. We understand 3 deputies who I'm just told right now were training at the time. Much more will be to come of this, who these deputies are, of course. That's something that a lot of, like I said, the neighbors are asking about as well as they made their way down the way, as they tried to make their way down the way. Like I said, it is blocked off right here on Eastern Avenue, a large stretch of the road. We're working to gather more details, but again, after talking with that member of the Sheriff's Department, he tells me that the group that was training at the time, and I want to make sure that we get this one right. Let's pull up those notes that I have for you. This is a specialized team that was training at the time of the explosion, the arson and explosive detail group. That is the group that was training at the time. We're working to gather more details for you. We did talk with the public information officer who says this is the designated staging area. As soon as they're able to give us more information, confirmed information, they'll be bringing it to us right here. And of course, we'll bring it to you live as well. Adrian, Lynette.
Thank you for that, Lauren. Yeah, we were told that the firefighters in the station nearby felt that explosion at 7:27, and then they self-responded across the street to help. It was during a shift change, but they did feel that. So certainly any residents in the area must have felt it as well, and must have heard all of the emergency personnel responding to the scene. We are going to go back now to Julia Dang, who is overhead in Boyle Heights at the hospital nearby, where we believe, but are only assuming at this point, that some of the injured may have been taken to that hospital. Julia.
That's right, Lynette. We don't have that confirmed, but that's what we're hearing. And based on what we're seeing on the ground, you can see these 2 deputies standing outside the parking lot where patients are brought in by ambulance. It appears to us patients may have been transported here. You can see the deputies' vehicles as well. And Lynette, as you talk about the sense of urgency when this happened a little over 2 hours ago, you got to think about the silver linings. The fact that the LA County Fire Department is headquartered so close to where this happened, and firefighters were able to respond on their own without waiting for any kind of 911 call. So it's probably thanks to that quick response that we have 3 fatalities and not 4. But we did confirm that 4th person, the patient who was injured, was critically hurt. So the transport that we saw happen earlier, the person who was taken out of the back of the ambulance, we thought was connected to this incident. You saw that person. It looked like a woman. She was conscious. She was sitting up in a wheelchair. She was not flat on her back on a stretcher. So again, we don't know for sure if that was the critically injured victim. But as deputies continue standing by out here, trading notes, talking on the phone, and more authorities show up, we just have more and more questions about what that person's condition is now, what kind of treatment they need. But we're going to continue keeping eyes on LA General Medical Hospital, just a couple miles from where the explosion happened.
Okay, so Julia, thank you for that. Again, Julia at the hospital there. Again, that's just a few miles away from the LASD training facility where this explosion happened. We want to show you a map to give you an idea of exactly where this is happening here. So the training academy is right off the 710 between the 10 and the 60. It's in the City Terrace area to the west, and then just to the east of it would be Maravilla. So that gives you an idea of where it is. It's near the Monterey Park Golf Club and just south of California State University of the Los Angeles campus there. So it is a sprawling facility. If you, I'm not sure, I'm sure, Lynette, that you've been there before covering stories, but it is a massive facility. And again, we know that the incident that happened today is specifically in a parking lot, as Lauren Coronado just pointed out, just learned a short time ago. It specifically involved the arson and explosives detail.
So you can see from this map that there's quite a large parking lot, several buildings, all part of this campus. So it definitely is a vast area, now all part of this investigation. We're going to go right now again to Lauren Coronado, NBC4's Lauren Coronado, who is on the ground. Lauren, talk to us about how difficult it was for you to get on scene. You were coming from another story to cover that, and were diverted to this. How hard was it for you to get there?
Lynette, Adrian, it was a little tough. We mapped ourselves, and right away it started rerouting me. I realized, okay, there is a large portion of the area that's blocked off for this investigation. We cover a lot of crime, and that's often the case. You map yourself somewhere, you can't get there. If you're on the 10 getting off on Eastern Avenue, that's likely going to be what you're dealing with. A large portion of Eastern Avenue is blocked off. We're at Sheriff Road right now. This is the staging area, so let's give you guys an idea of what we're dealing with on the ground. The facility is just up the way. Obviously, we can't head that way. You will see a few sheriff's deputies turn the corner, though, and make their way up the way as the investigation continues. But this is the designated staging area. I talked with the public information officer. You can see all the media preparing for what is expected to be a press conference any moment now. I spoke with the public information officer, and he told me that they are gearing up to get us more details. They're going to get briefed, and they're going to share whatever they can with us as soon as they can. So that's something we're standing by for. But we know 3 sheriff's deputies have died in this explosion. It's just heartbreaking. When we were sent this way, like you said, I was covering a different story at the time. When we heard the news, our hearts sank. It's really difficult to hear something like this. Members of the community protecting our community, training just up the way, and for something tragic like this to happen is so difficult for the entire community, the law enforcement community, the greater community. I did talk with some of the neighbors up the way, and I asked them, did you guys hear the explosion? Did you feel the impact of the explosion like the nearby fire department did? They said they didn't, but they wanted to know more answers because they know that this is their local law enforcement, the LA County Sheriff's Department. They wanted to know more details, and of course our viewers, they're looking for more details as well. It's really a difficult situation for everybody involved. We're standing by. I did ask that public information officer if he had an idea of when he would be able to share some information. He said he can't share too much just yet. This is so dynamic. Things crews are still moving. They're trying to figure out what they can share at the moment. So we are standing by. We are in contact with those sheriff's deputies who can provide us information here again at the staging area, which is on the corner of Eastern Avenue and Sheriff Road. It's blocked off to the public right now. If you get off on Eastern Avenue off the 10, you won't be able to make it very far down Eastern Avenue because of this. The yellow tape really begins at the fire department, if you're familiar with the area, which is the fire department you guys have referenced, who felt the impact of this intense explosion. So that portion of Eastern Avenue is closed off, beginning there all the way down the way to this training facility, some of the surrounding streets as well. The public cannot access this area, and we are seeing a lot of resources arrive as well. As I got here, you can really feel the urgency in the area as you see more of the sheriff's deputies arrive, more of the members of the bomb squad that we saw arrive earlier, members of the ATF as well. So that is what we're dealing with here on the ground. Of course, we're trying to gather more details from the sheriff's department as well, and of course we'll bring that to you as soon as we can.
And Lauren, that might take some time because obviously when something like this happens, the priority is to get the injured to the hospital to get the treatment that they need.
So much to gather.
And then you're going to make sure want to make sure that there are no more devices that could potentially explode and injure any other people. And then now that we know for sure that 3 deputies have been killed, you know for certain that the sheriff is going to want to talk with their families as well as with their colleagues before they disseminate any further information as to what happened here. So it could be a little while, until we get further information. But again, it's been a little bit over 2 hours since this explosion happened at the training facility. Lauren, we'll check back with you in just a second. I want to show you this statement right now from 1st District Supervisor Hilda Solis. We want to show you this. She wrote, quote, "I am deeply saddened by the tragic incident that occurred this morning at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the Training Academy in East Los Angeles." There's the statement right there. "My heart goes out to the families, friends, and colleagues of the 3 individuals who lost their lives in what appears to be a devastating explosion. I'm in contact with Sheriff Robert Luna and closely monitoring the situation as we await further details. My thoughts are with all those grieving and the first responders who are on the scene."
We also have information from Mayor Bass. I'm going to scroll through that. Mayor Bass put this out on social media as well, saying the city of LA is supporting the LASD headquarters through this horrific incident in Monterey Park. She says that LAFD, ATF arson investigators, and members of the LAPD bomb squad are assisting at the training facility. The thoughts of all Angelenos are with all of those impacted by this blast. We do know that Sheriff Robert Luna is either at the scene or headed to the scene and expected to talk with the media who is present to give them an update. But again, a lot of this is just being gathered as we speak. This is a live picture right now from Sheriff's headquarters there. You can see this is from News Chopper 4 overhead with Julia Dang. She's been on scene just trying to get our bearings to show us exactly. This is the image that she brought us very early on when we started this. And we do believe right there next to that fire engine that you see on scene, there is a Blazer or an SUV that had its back window blown out. We do believe that was involved in this. It happened at 7:30 this morning. We're gathering all those details. The one thing that is confirmed that is the most horrific part of this incident is that 3 deputies were killed in this explosion early this morning.
And Julia, one thing that you were focusing on initially as you're showing some of the other aircraft there at the scene, but one thing near the explosion site, near that fire truck and that patrol SUV that appears to have its back window blown out, is that there appear to be something on the ground, some kind of brown parcel or package. We can't quite make it out given the distance, but is that still there as far as you can tell?
Yeah, Adrian, we're flying quite a bit higher now. That TFR, that temporary flight restriction, is now in effect. So we're looking at this from 5,000 feet above. But yeah, I can see that brown bag. It might be a backpack. It is still there. A couple of deputies have walked up to the police tape. We haven't seen anybody actually cross under that tape and pick up the bag, but we saw people looking at it, taking photos, and then this black tent that we showed you earlier, a couple of people are working underneath it right now. So definitely still an active investigation. And you see LAPD, their mobile command unit, I believe, is now set up right behind this fire truck.
Julia, we know that you got there first thing this morning. I think you were overhead before, right around 8 a.m. maybe a little bit after 8 a.m. So, you know, shortly after this happened, we understand it happened about 7:27, and we were there shortly after that. Now, you went to the hospital, you've come back. What else can you tell us about how you have seen this scene change in terms of responding vehicles or people on scene? Are you seeing any other changes from your vantage point?
Lynette, it seems to be actually quieting down on scene. When we first got here, nearly 2 hours ago now, this fire truck that's currently in the middle of our shot, this fire truck was here, and there were more than 10 people gathered around it. They were, I think...
Right now it's 12:45. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are dipping into coverage from Los Angeles at KNBC with this breaking news situation out of East LA, specifically the Boyle Heights area, the 710-10 freeways where they converge together. A very highly densely populated area with buildings and residences, and at least 3 deputies killed after an explosion happened around 7:30 this morning local time, and a lot of officials, including Secretary Noem, weighing in, as well as Attorney General Pam Bondi. So we do know that the White House is aware of this situation at a Sheriff's Department training center. So 3 deputies confirmed dead due to this explosion. The events leading to the explosion unknown so far, as well as the victims themselves, who they are. They have not been identified. But as we begin to, or as we just start to weigh in and look at this coverage, we feel their hearts are heavy out of East LA and Los Angeles, that community there, with a large area cordoned off as well, with that investigation continuing now until further notice. We can count on that. So we will continue to follow this as we see fit. In the meantime, want to bring you back out here monitoring some weather, because locally in the Charlotte metro, we are staying weather impact alert. It is hot, and it's not only hot, but it is dangerously so. So we bring in meteorologist Becca Birdsall into the Live Impact studio. And Becca, I mean, what are we talking about here? How bad is it?
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's been hot and it's been humid, but this is going to start to get closer into that danger zone. So once we see heat index values 103 and higher, that's dangerous heat. So that's exactly what we have in the forecast for today. Likely will continue to build throughout the weekend as well. Now, a couple of heat advisories have been issued across portions of the Charlotte metro area, and those do run from about 2 o'clock today through about 8 o'clock tonight. So this is going to be heat in the afternoon and evening. I'll tell you right now, it feels like the upper 90s and triple digits across much of the area. So heat advisory you can see in place across the Charlotte metro. Know that the county's not encompassed in it. It is still going to be hot, and those heat index values are still going to be feeling like the triple digits. Now, we'll likely see this continue through the weekend as well, hence why we are weather alert today through Saturday, through Sunday, as well as heat is going to be the biggest story. So for today, actual high temperatures, upper 90s, but factoring in the humidity, factoring in those dew points in the upper 60s to lower to middle 70s, it is going to be feeling like 105 by the time we get to 5 o'clock, feeling like 103 through this evening as temperatures very, very slowly start to cool down as we head into your Saturday morning. Now, there is also going to be a chance for a couple of thunderstorms today as well, just not everyone will be seeing them. So as we advance, there we go, Futurecast showing the potential for some showers and thunderstorms. I'd say the greatest coverage is going to be north of I-40, but hey, look at those dew points in the oppressive to miserable range in the upper 60s to lower to middle 70s. I am not looking forward to stepping outside as I get off work for today. There is going to be a chance to cool off, at least in terms of rainfall. That is mainly going to be up towards the high country. They're also going to be under a severe weather threat for today, meaning if an isolated thunderstorm could turn strong to severe. Main concern with that is going to be strong gusty winds, exactly what we've been dealing with pretty much every day for this summer, and locally heavy downpours as well that could lead to a few areas of isolated flooding. So you'll notice Charlotte Metro really not encompassed much in this. I do think we'll have a chance to see a shower or thunderstorm throughout the weekend. It's just today overall that chance is pretty low. Hey, Doppler radar. dry here in the Charlotte area, but we do see a couple of showers and thunderstorms start to fire up towards the high country. That is in portions of Watauga and Avery counties. Nothing too impactful there. Most of that looks to be on the border, but you can see those pop-up showers and thunderstorms. This is going to be the nature of the forecast going forward as a high pressure system remains in command. So this weekend, not a washout at all. What you can expect is going to be hot. That's going to be the biggest impact. There are going to be a couple of opportunities for showers and storms, but overall would expect the heat to be the big story. 4-day forecast, you can see upper to middle 90s for today all the way through about Saturday and Sunday, eventually starting to cool down closer to average by the time we start off your work week. Monday 93, but by the time we get into Tuesday it does drop to about 90 degrees. So heat will continue to stay with us throughout the weekend, but better news is that we'll start to see a more pattern change as we head into the middle of next week. Peak heat index will remain near 105 today, tomorrow, feeling like 104 by the time we get into your Sunday, feeling like 102 for your Monday, and then hey, starting to cool down, at least feeling like the upper 90s by the time we get into Tuesday. That is going to feel like fall almost for us. Not quite.
Relative, yeah.
But
everything's relative. Yeah.
Everything's relative, but yeah, that's really extremely dangerous. Oh, and there was an extreme danger zone, so we're not even to that yet, and this feels pretty oppressive already.
Well, you know what? We did peak with heat index values 110 earlier this summer.
Oh,
so
okay.
when we had that extreme heat wave, I like to forget it too. That was a couple weekends ago. So not going to be as hot as that, thankfully, but it's still going to be feeling very icky, sticky.
It's bun weather.
I mean, I did it.
The buns.
Yes.
I did it. Carlene did it this morning. I said I'm going to.
You got to join in on the
really
buns.
good. Okay.
I promised the people I was going to come
love
in
a
with
bun.
it at 12:30.
Okay.
So
even in the studio, it's humid. I know
Yes.
Humid in
that
here,
my
too.
hair has been expanding ever since I got here. So
yeah.
all right.
Look at
well, you know,
this.
fall is 66 days away, and I did count this morning.
You can't wait. You're so excited.
Well, good luck once you get out there, Becca.
All right,
It's
appreciate it.
definitely pretty steamy. All right, thank you so much. We're going to see how that's going to affect everybody later on this afternoon, as we are going to stay weather impact alert, continue this coverage throughout the weekend. It has been a tough day in Los Angeles as we are monitoring some breaking news out of LA. This is a live shot right now of the aerial view of one of the freeways leaving, looks like the Sheriff's Department Training Center in Boyle Heights. That's where an explosion happened, killing 3 deputies. That has been confirmed. This is KNBC covering it live right now as they are posting Attorney General Pam Bondi's ex-post, as well as the mayor of LA. So obviously a horrible situation. But let's go ahead and listen into their live coverage now here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
The LAPD bomb squad are assisting at the training facility. The thoughts of all Angelinos are with all of those impacted by this blast. And we're also hearing from former LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. He wrote prayers for the 3 LASD HQ deputies killed, their families, their co-workers, and all those affected by the tragedy at the training center in East LA. So we're hearing from officials, former officials, current officials. We're hearing from people at the federal, state, and local levels as well. We know that Governor Newsom has been informed about what happened here, and he says that he will provide any and all state resources that may be able to assist and help out with the investigation.
We do know that Sheriff Luna is on scene and expected to hold a news conference and talk with reporters. He, I'm sure, is being briefed on exactly what has taken place here. This is a live picture. This is one of the areas that we have been very much focused on. I'm sorry, this is video right now, but very much focused on this area. That is one of the patrol units that we very early on were able to identify that had the back window blown out, and you see some debris in the area as well. But there hasn't been a lot of attention from everybody who's on scene to this area, so we don't know how it is connected for sure. Again, when we did talk with Eric Leonard early on as well, from his sources, he was able to find out that there was some sort of response to an incident yesterday. They do believe that there were at least 2 items that were possibly brought back that may be connected to this, some sort of military grade items that may have been involved in this explosion. But we're just trying to piece together everything that his sources are telling him, everything that we're able to see from News Chopper 4 and from our crews on scene. But in terms of getting some very specific information from the department, we are really hoping to get a news conference information as soon as possible. We're now approaching the 10 o'clock hour. We do know that this happened around 7:27. It was felt by personnel just a block away, and then they self-reported to that scene and responded to try to help those who were involved.
Yeah, so the location again, the epicenter of this tragedy that has captured national attention right now is right at the center of your screen right there, as you can kind of see the camera push in there. That is the patrol vehicle. Perhaps you can make it out that the back window there appears to have been blown out, and I would guess, I cannot specifically make it out. You can see something on the ground just to the rear bumper there. That might be some shattered glass. Well, just to the right, and again, our helicopter has been kept I think it was 5,000 feet away. There was some sort of brown parcel or package down below on the ground, so we're not sure if that's connected with the explosion, but that would be just to the right of that patrol vehicle that you're looking at right there on the ground. So it looks like there's a strip of something as well that may be orange or red. And of course, we'll continue to ask questions to the sheriff when he does make himself available regarding what happened here. But again, we do know that he's either at the scene right now or on his way to the scene, and of course communicating with the investigators at that location. But the fire truck set up in the corner of your screen there, we did see some of the personnel staging behind it there. There was a concern at one point that there could be more explosives that could detonate. It does now appear, just anecdotally, contextually, that threat might be over, because from what we can gather from our visuals, it does not look like any of the officers at the scene are wearing that protective gear, or as they call it, in the industry, that Gumby suit that you've kind of seen on television or in movies before. But they make sure that they wear that explosive suit that really protects them from any type of blast. So they're not wearing that right now, and you see that there is a number of personnel at the scene. So that would give the indication that the most pressing threat may be over.
Right, and so again, this is video that was shot earlier from News Chopper 4 that did show that fire truck there, and then at another point the fire truck is gone. So that's why you're seeing 2 different scenes. This is video that we shot earlier. Just to give you some information about exactly what has happened, about 7:30 this morning, there was an explosion at the LASD training facility in East Los Angeles, and we have confirmed that 3 deputies were killed. We also know from Eric Leonard's sourcing, from the people he's been able to be in contact with, a sheriff's sergeant was critically injured and was transported to the hospital. Again, what we have been able to piece together from different sources throughout this morning is that there was some sort of a scene that they responded to, the bomb squad responded to. There were at least 2 some sort of articles, military grade articles, that may have been brought back to the training center, and that may have been what was involved in this accident. At one point, there was concern that there may still be some danger. One of our photographers was asked to get further back, so we're still trying to gauge exactly what happened here. Sheriff Robert Luna on scene, expected to give us a briefing very shortly.
And NBC4's Lauren Coronado on the scene was able to find out that this specifically involves the arson and explosives detail there. And that is the personnel that was involved in this incident. Again, learning that 3 deputies have been killed and at least one critically injured. And we'll be working to find out the identities of the casualties with this tragedy here, again, at the LASD training center. But again, you have multiple entities who are willing to assist with this investigation, and we know that the FBI, likely there already, it was just about an hour ago that we got word from them that they were sending agents in that direction to assist with the investigation. So that investigation is likely going to take some time. They're going to be very deliberate and methodical about this to try to get the answers as to why and how this happened and who was involved here, and we'll be on top of it every step of the way.
You know, as we continue to try to get information about the training center, exactly what happens, as you see from News Chopper 4, it's a vast facility, but we were able to look into the archives of what might have happened there in the past. And there was a story that we covered here on NBC4 previously where 16 SWAT members were injured in a training explosion there. We're going to, of course, incorporate that into our reporting and find out exactly what's happened there in the past, but that is one of the first things that we do is say, you know, what is the history of this facility? Who trains here? What kind of training is done? And that is the kind of reporting that Eric Leonard has done, as well as he's been sourcing exactly what happens here as we try to put some of the pieces of this puzzle together. Because again, it happened at 7:30 this morning, but at this point we haven't gotten, you know, an official press conference or information from anybody exactly what happened here. We know it happened at 7:30. We know there was quite a response, and we do know that 3 deputies were killed.
And as we approach 10 o'clock, we continue to follow the breaking news out of East LA. 3 deputies killed in an explosion at this LA County Sheriff's training facility. This happening 2.5 hours ago. A 4th deputy is in critical condition.
Sheriff Robert Luna is expected to hold a press conference any minute now. And the moment he does, we will bring you his comments live. In the meantime, we're monitoring the latest on our social media and on our website.
And right now, 1 o'clock here on a Friday, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are continuing to dip into live coverage over East LA, where a fatal explosion happened at a training facility for the LA Sheriff's Department there. A lot of unknowns at this point, but we do know that there is a perimeter set up. It is a wide one. There's a live shot right now. It is frozen, but traffic is impacted here. It's causing quite a commuting headache if you're familiar with LA traffic conditions. Really any time of day it's going to be bad, but this is just part of the coverage, and this happened at the training center in Boyle Heights around 7:30. 3 deputies confirmed killed in this incident, and happened in the parking lot. The events leading up to that explosion unknown at this point, but officials are about to give a press conference there to update media on the situation out of East LA and the Boyle Heights area. As you can see, a lot of media folks are gathering around that area. And we will continue to follow that as well. So we are also following here at just after 1 o'clock weather impact alert for you for the next few days because of dangerously high temperatures, the indices reaching in the triple digits. Our Becca Birdsall was here just moments ago giving us an update. And this is also really calling to action the need for those cooling centers. There's been an ongoing situation now for weeks, particularly in Gastonia, and that's where we find Anna King right now, who is bringing us the latest on, you know, this call for a cooling center there. They were trying to call on officials to, you know, help people there. Anna, what is the latest?
Yeah, Jane, if you remember, just 2 weeks ago, the cooling station here in Gastonia was set up as 2 fans up against the fence that's right behind the camera here, and a few chairs. But just recently, they opened the Salvation Army here, and they set up this outside cooling center. I'll step out of the way so you can see, with the same fans and the chairs out here. Now, the indoor facility will only be open if the heat index is above 95 degrees, and then between 90 to 95 degrees only the outdoor cooling station will be open. But right now it's so hot they have both stations open, so the outdoor facility as well as the indoor station are both open. And I also just spoke with a Gastonia city official, and I asked them, with the winter months coming up and, you know, next summer, everything happens really quickly. Are they planning for what's to come for the people who are in need here? And they told me they are pre-planning and they're making sure they stay ahead of everything. And what happened here was definitely a mistake.
All right, Anna, and we will see more of your coverage later on WCNC Charlotte. Thank you for bringing us that update. Definitely a need for that cooling center in Gastonia. Thanks for the live update here on Live Impact News. All right, so we want to bring you now the latest weather report. Our Becca Birdsall, like I said, she was in the studio just moments ago, but she also filed this report with our Ben Thompson and Lisa Washington. Let's get you out to her report from earlier today that's really going to take us through the weekend and what you need to know on WCNC Plus.
Going all the way through the weekend. Now, for this afternoon, an active heat advisory is in place for portions of our county that runs from about 2 to 8 o'clock. That's for heat index values close to around 105. Few thunderstorms will provide some relief for that, but only a few of us will get on them. This weekend, heat persists. We'll likely see high temperatures right where we are for this afternoon, with a couple of thunderstorms in the forecast as well, eventually cooling down closer to average as we head into next week. Outside now, temperatures rapidly warming up. 92 in Charlotte, 91 if you're listening from Rockingham, 88 in Statesville, and 90 if you're listening over in Morganton. This is what it feels like across the area. Feeling like 100 in Albemarle, 100 over towards Rockingham, 105 over towards Charlotte, and feeling like the upper 90s in and around the Charlotte metro. So weather alert for today as those heat index values start to rise up above 103. That's dangerous heat that we're talking. Actual highs will be in the upper 90s, and again, many of us will be peaking with heat index values around 105. So heat impacts, well, this is going to continue from today all the way through the weekend from about 1 to 6, 7, 8 o'clock. Heat index values 103 or higher, so make sure, again, take care of yourself, especially if you have any outdoor plans. Stay cool and, of course, take frequent breaks in the shade. Dew points from now all the way through about Tuesday are going to remain in the upper 60s to lower 70s. Now, remember, the higher the dew point is, the more uncomfortable the air will be feeling. So peak heat index values from today and tomorrow close to about 105, feeling like 104 by the time we get into Sunday afternoon, starting to slightly cool down as we head throughout the work week. If you've been wondering, wow, this summer has been way more humid than previous, well, we've done the math for you. So here are the stats. The hours with the dew point of 70 degrees or above, well, we are actually tied so far for about 470 hours of that. Now, this data goes from June 1st to about now, so we still have the second half of summer to get through, but just an indication of how humid this summer has been. Doppler radar, it's been quiet across the metro, starting to see a few downpours up towards the high country, and that's where the best coverage of showers and thunderstorms will be for today. Likely we'll start to fire up in activity over the next couple of hours, especially along and north of I-40, including the mountains and foothills. Locally, heavy downpours will be possible, and a few of these might escape over towards the northern half of the metro. Then by the time we get into your Saturday, a couple of showers possible on the high country, but a better coverage likely here in the metro, especially closer to around 6, 7 o'clock. Just not everybody will be seeing them. Fast forward to Sunday, and guess what? We'll do it all again as high pressure system remains in control, going to bring us that typical summer-like pattern. How much rainfall we're expecting? Well, it's going to be heavily dependent on where the heaviest downpours set up, which we cannot pinpoint, but those that do get in on some of those thunderstorm actions, anywhere from about a quarter to upwards of an inch is going to be possible. With that excessive rainfall impact, meaning especially where the soils are most saturated, well, that's going to be up towards the high country. Better chance to see some localized flooding. For today, we are under a severe weather threat, again, especially up north of the metro. This is going to be for strong to damaging wind gusts out of any strong thunderstorm. Headed off to the nightscape, should be a nice one, just definitely on the warm side. Game begins at 7:04, around 6 o'clock. We'll be at 95 degrees, feeling above the triple digits. A slight chance for a shower or thunderstorm, but again, that main coverage is going to be north of the metro, eventually falling into the 80s by the time we get into around 9 o'clock. So 7-day forecast, we are weather alert today for the heat. We'll continue to be weather alert all the way through the weekend. Heat index values above that triple digit mark start to slightly cool down as we head throughout the work week, feeling closer to average by the time we get into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Now to Gastonia, where a police-involved shooting left one man dead. And officers responded to an assault call late last night, but the situation escalated quickly. Gastonia PD held a press conference earlier this morning to answer questions about what happened and who the suspect was. So if you missed any of it, we're going to play this entire briefing now here on WCNC Plus.
Hello everyone, I'm Trent Connard. I'm the Chief of Police, Gastonia Police Department. I'm going to go over a brief statement about the officer-involved shooting that we had in the early morning hours. Gastonia Police Department officers were in an officer-involved shooting at a home located at 4356 Hickory Hollow Road here in Gastonia. At 10:32 p.m. on Thursday, July the 17th, patrol officers were dispatched to a call of an assault happening at a home. When officers arrived minutes later, they encountered a male relative of the suspect in the driveway of the home, who indicated that the suspect in the home was armed and had fired at least one shot. The suspect, now identified as Jeremy Jackson Bonham, date of birth 11/12/85, appeared from the rear of the home in the dark and opened fire on Gastonia police officers and others with a rifle. Multiple Gastonia officers returned fire, killing the suspect. No Gastonia officers were injured. Per our routine procedure, all of our officers have been placed on paid administrative leave, pending the outcome of the investigation by the State Bureau of Investigation. And any other questions can just refer to.
How many officers are on leave?
Right now we have 10 officers on leave.
10 officers on
Yes.
leave. And I'm assuming there was a standoff also that preceded the shooting. Can you tell
Yes.
me something about that?
There was time. I know that it's the full details of everything, but yeah, there was a time between the officers getting there, meeting with the relative out in the driveway, and trying. Typically, we're not going to be quick to rush in on anything. Emotions and reasoning. You want emotions to come down and things to see if we can. A lot of times, whether you negotiate or things of that nature to try to de-escalate, and times on everybody's side, it benefits us, and as things go on, a lot of times we can avoid situations like this, but this wasn't the case.
How long did negotiations last before the suspect fired shots?
I know it probably happened right before midnight, I would say, and so they arrived at 10:32.
For an hour and a half.
Or so. Yeah.
The male relative that was encountered by officers outside the home, was that a child?
No.
Okay.
If you can, Chief, were there any commands or anything given to the guy with the rifle before he fired, or after, or before police fired? That's under investigation. It appears from just my knowledge that I have, and which I have not viewed everything, but it does appear that the suspect came from the rear side of the residence, shooting at the officers, and the officers then returned fire, killing him. And did they have any advance notice that he was at the rear before before shots were fired? No, it was very, very dark, and they couldn't have seen him.
Just speak to the unpredictability and the danger of approaching these sort of situations for officers.
Yeah, it's extremely dangerous, especially anytime there's a firearm involved in anything, or even any situation. You always have to assume that there's going to be something, and be on the watch for dangerous situations that could eventually hurt anyone. So, they're trained for that, and that's what they look for, and then they're trained to react to whatever type of threat, whether it's physical or a weapon involved or whatever.
How big is a relief from you when you hear this major situation going on, there's shots fired, and you find out that all of your officers are safe?
Well, it is a relief. We never want to. I've been on the other end of that where officers have been injured. That's not a good phone call. It's definitely concern. Any situation like that, and any life that is taken, or any injury, is, if we can avoid it, that's our ultimate goal, is for everybody to go home safely.
Did the suspect have a criminal record?
I have no idea, sir.
10 officers?
10 officers.
So that's going to have lingering effects on manpower?
Yes, that is definitely a challenge, but we do have, I can tell you, we've got a lot of good relationships with law enforcement across the county and outside of our county that are more than willing to help us out in the event we were to need anything. So we've got great relationships with other local law enforcement agencies.
Have police been to that home before?
I couldn't tell you that, ma'am. I've not looked into that.
Chief, were there any, I know we heard something about a possibility of a flashbang, were there any attempts made to get this individual out of the house before he ends up firing a shot?
Yeah, to get him out of the house,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, I know that there was talking,
yes.
Whether it be intercom or something, but that's all I know. The details, the fine details, it's going to be up to the SBI to determine that.
You guys, you got to do your job, but at the same time, I know it's got to be hard. This guy's a veteran, so it's kind of like one of your own. You know, you guys taking on any mental health help that these officers will be getting?
Oh yes, definitely. As far as mental health, I mean, I can tell you, I can't tell you the state of anyone, you know, but I can definitely say mental health is a real issue across our country, across the world, really, and that we treat it very seriously here at the Gastonia Police Department. And anything, we have peer support teams, we have other counseling, things of that nature to help anyone that might be struggling with whatever issue. Our employees are very important to us. They're our most valuable asset. Without our employees, we're nothing. And it's going to be hard to provide that community service if we don't have good, healthy employees. So we do everything, take that very seriously.
I'm trying not to hog everything, but Chief, again, about 10:30, about 2:30 is when the shooting happened. Is that roughly about it?
No, it was before, right around midnight or after a little bit. I'm not 100% sure on the timing.
And if you can, for surveillance sake, when something like that happens, we know you're negotiating, but you're also surveilling. Can you talk to us about the steps that you guys took in surveillance? We hear some neighbors are saying that there may be a robot used in this situation or something.
Every possible thing that we can use. We've got a lot of tools on special teams, from drones to robots to, and I don't know specifically what we use, but anything that was applicable that we could have done, I can tell you we have very well trained special situations and patrol officers that are well equipped to try everything that we can. So as things would present themselves, which I don't know everything, they would have used whatever they had at their disposal to try to de-escalate or to gain more intelligence or information to help them solve the problem, or, you know, I wouldn't say fix the issue, but to help them to do their job.
And when they fired, was he inside or outside?
Outside.
He was outside,
the house.
In the backyard?
Yes. He, like I say, he came from a very dark corner of the back and fired upon the officers, and they returned fire.
And do we know, it looks like from the markings on the ground that there were a lot of shots fired in one area. Were police all in one specific area up front when that happened?
Well, yes. I would imagine they were all over, but I would, you know, behind cover for sure. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be grouped behind certain objects and things to provide cover and concealment.
And there was an evacuation, I think, for a gas leak, but I'm not sure if it's related to you guys at all. There were some homes that were evacuated. Did you guys ask for an evacuation during that time?
I know that there was a gas leak, not 100% sure, but believed to be maybe from the gunfire at some point, and there was a strong odor of gas, and we requested city fire to come out there. The leak was stopped and everyone was safe, and anybody that would have needed to be evacuated, I'm sure where it was.
And I know that the bullets were trained on this individual, but it sounds like at least one bullet might have hit a home behind the suspect's home. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, but I'm not saying that it's not impossible for something like that. I mean, it could have happened, but I'm not aware of it.
Any additional injuries or wounds at all as a result of the shooting that happened last night?
Not that I've been briefed on. No, sir.
He was a veteran?
I'm not 100% sure.
How many weapons were found?
I did not do the search. The SBI would have done that whole investigation. That would be a question better suited for them.
And with your situation, the 10 shots were fired, the 10 officers that are on leave represent 10 guns discharged, I take it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because typically you don't put folks on leave who don't fire weapons.
Correct. All right, well, thank you very much.
If y'all have any other further questions down the road.
Did you mention an internal investigation? You guys, is there going to be an internal investigation also into this?
Well, we always look at that. It's the SBI's, they will do the investigation and give their report to us, and then if there is something that wasn't right or policy or something of that nature, then that would be something that would come later through our investigation. But yes, there's always an investigation, but we have to have the investigating agency's information and that report before we can proceed with ours.
And that was a press conference from Gastonia PD from earlier this morning about the situation and the events leading up to an officer-involved shooting in Gastonia late last night. I want to get you now to a live shot here. This is the Aspen Institute Security Forum. They are holding this event right now. Let's go ahead and listen in as leaders from many different agencies and former officials are speaking right now.
This is my thoughtful pause, by the way. It's a very good question. I think Gemini is earning its keep. We talk about being bold and responsible, and the responsible side of it is very much, and we are right now at the Pareto frontier of capability of these models and efficiency of these models, and the rate is increasing at a remarkable pace. We are 300 times, not 300%, 300 times more efficient than we were the state of the art was just 2 years ago. That is a remarkable rate of change. In that kind of dynamic environment, we are spending a lot of time building in guardrails to our models to minimize the chances that they can be hacked or abused. That's particularly important as we get now into the agentic era of AI, where these tools will be able to take multi-step actions and potentially, which will be extraordinarily useful for all of us in our daily lives, including the scientific community, but also potentially dangerous when it comes to things like chemical weapons, biological weapons, radiological weapons, nuclear weapons. So how do we take steps against that? We build into the model hard guardrails. We build into what are called deterministic guardrails.
Can I just push you on this to sharpen your chatbot's questions about how you balance commercial interests against the potential for catastrophic misuse? Take us inside a meeting at Google. Are there conversations where you think, God, this would be so cool, it would make us a lot of money, but boy, could that go really wrong, so we're not going there?
Yeah. So we have held off on releasing some models over the years where we have had concerns. I'll give you an example from a few years back. We had a model that would do great speech recognition at a distance. And we said, well, wait a second, that could also be misused for surveillance. So we held off publishing a paper around that and only published the part that would be useful for people who have hearing issues, so it's right up close and you can see the person's face.
Yeah.
So those kinds of back and forth happen all the day. We have teams that are focused just on the frontier model safety classes of questions. We have red teams that go in and try and break the models in different ways to make sure that they're not subject to these abuse. Now, that said, it's a fast evolving technology and nobody is going to be perfect in this area, but we're devoting a lot of work ourselves and across the industry through something called the Frontier Model Forum to try and do cutting edge research to benefit everybody working in this area to make the guardrails as strong as they can be and limit the chances of jailbreaking.
I have a question, and I want all three of you to take this on. It's lightning round. General Petraeus, you famously asked the "tell me how this ends" question. You were talking about the war in Iraq. But I want you to apply it to this, because I keep thinking you built your career in a world, the military, that places a premium on predictability, on ability to plan. None of us know, not one of us, how all this is going to go with tech, with AI. How do you think about that?
Well, if I just come back to the world that I know the best, which is that of the military and perhaps even intelligence, it would be that you're going to see in the not too distant future, unmanned systems fighting unmanned systems, and they will not be remotely piloted. They will be algorithmically piloted. So it's going to be AI systems, and again, in a sense, fighting against other AI systems in the form of unmanned systems, again, in all the domains of warfare. And that is really something. And so you're really, it's your technology fighting their technology, and the human is not in the loop. Human may or may not even be on the loop all that much, because indeed the algorithms increasingly are going to be produced by the AR large language models. And of course, I'd actually be curious if you agree with this. Those models reportedly will be within 2 years at the level of a Nobel laureate. I think right now they're at a very good graduate student, next year's great PhD, and the year after that is, again, Nobel laureate level intellectual thinking.
The test we use, Demis Hassabis, who actually just won the Nobel Prize for some of his work in this area, is if these models had all the information available to Einstein in 1900, could they come up with a theory of relativity? And we are certainly making progress in that direction.
Would it have taken 10 seconds or 20 seconds? And wait till quantum, by the way. We haven't really touched on that, but then take this incredible acceleration of computational power.
And I should say quantum is on track. We think that by 2030 we will have working quantum computers which will more than exponentially increase the rate of AI. AI is making quantum faster, quantum will make AI faster, so you get this combinatorial loop of innovation. So we already are working on post-quantum cryptography, trying to get ready for that future. 5 years is not a very long time.
No, it is not. Anya, tell us how this ends.
And you have been watching a summit taking place in Aspen on security, and that picture apparently frozen. That's okay. We're going to move on here at 1:25 right now on Friday. As you may know, the filing for candidates to file at the elections office for Mecklenburg County has closed. Of course, Vi Lyles is running again for a 5th term after filing on Wednesday, and she spoke to local media. If you missed any of it, this was her first interaction after filing with media on Wednesday. Play that for you here now on WCNC Plus.
This city has grown tremendously. The opportunities that we've had and some of the ups and the downs have been really, really good. All of you know that I used to work for the city, and to me, what this means is that you always want to be in a position to be at your very best for whatever the opportunities will be. And so I still feel like this is really the right time at the right place, especially since we've had the support of the legislature. We had this meeting this morning, or a presentation this morning, for the new soccer match coming in next year. How you can't be but excited around doing this work when you see what other people are doing and what we're making possible.
Deputy Lyles, you started this a while back, so tell me, what will you do differently? What have you learned? And what will you do differently? Will you govern differently? Will you lead differently in order to reach all these goals that you have in mind?
Well, you all have been talking and printing all of the stories about how the council members and I don't necessarily always get along. And that is something that bothers me as much as it bothers them. And so one of my goals would be to actually have a council that's united and has a list of things that are really, really important, and the ability to make it possible to get those things done. So that's one of the things that I've learned.
Coming off of that, Mayor Lyles, you had mentioned a few meetings back working with Ron Mayfield and Dr. Watlington. Where's that process at now in terms of...
Well, it's actually not not Mayfield. It was our Brene Johnson.
Yes, thank you.
And I don't think Dr. Watlington was there. The idea was that, that coalition of activists and the people that are really urgent in this thing, that I need to listen. And so we are continuing that. It's not just with those council people, but others as well. And looking at what can we do better to represent this community, because this community deserves that kind of reputation.
Charlotte, there were some calls from the police union and now from Mayor Roberts about a change or not being heard enough. Occurrences not being heard enough by the current council. What do you make of calls for change at the city council level?
That's a tough question right now, because I think that all of us carry a burden of listening. And we can do it every Monday night, and you see that happening. But at the same time, you have to pay attention to what's going on in our communities. And I think that the thing that most is most impactful. And I just spoke to the Community Relations Committee last night to say, you know, we've done all of these things about disputes, and we've done things about how to make a good neighbor, be a good neighbor. And I think we need to get out more and work in those communities as quickly and as fast as we can. And so I'm going to probably ask once again for our community relations team to, they used to do just racial things, but now we know that it's not just race, it's actually how do we build a community with everyone. So I hope that there'll be some opportunity to do that.
Mayor, considering what happened over the weekend and really no comments from the city leaders about what happened over the weekend with all the shootings, two questions. One, do you consider it a mass shooting? Because we all saw the internal email. And two, why hasn't there been a statement from city leaders about the mass shootings that took place over the weekend?
Well, that's a tough question. One of the things that I think is that you have a council that works really hard. They're there every Monday night, most of the time, and they're on break. I was actually on break. I went to babysit my 2 grandchildren in Washington, D.C. So you learn these things, and you have to have the ability to adapt to them. And so what I would say is that, you know, give us some grace. But I believe that when we start talking about gun violence in the city and mass shootings, there's got to be more than just being a council member. It has got to be some place where your family, the people in your neighborhood, understand that guns are not the solution to disputes. And that's one of the things you talk about the community relations area. How do we do things like that to make it possible? We have these, it's not good. And we all know that, but I look around this country, and it's happening everywhere. We're not by ourselves in this, and I don't know that we have an answer yet.
I've got one question, Mayor. The interim city attorney, Anthony Fox, has called for an investigation of the comments Councilmember Wadlington made. Is that moving forward?
That is moving forward. We have had the opportunity to have the city attorney look at this. We'll also probably still have some review from Raleigh as well. You know, we just don't know what will happen. But this is the important thing about this. This whole thing was completely about our bond referendums and how do we have actually for people that are going to buy our bonds, we have to maintain a certain level of integrity. And so that it's an important step that we're taking, and it's one that's necessary in my opinion.
Time right now, just after 1:30 on a Friday afternoon. You've been watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus as we cover the election, and you heard there from Vi Lyles what she plans on doing with her on her platform, vying for another term as mayor. But there are a number of people throwing in their hat for the office, and our Julie Kay is in here now in the Live Impact studio to explain the 5, 6, 7 people now looking to fill this seat. So
yeah, it's a crowded race.
Yeah,
sure.
The deadline, they waited right to the last minute.
Yeah, we've got a couple more coming in today. What's most interesting, I think, now is that we actually do have a Republican on the ballot confirmed. Because yesterday we didn't. There was someone who had signed up earlier this week and then backed out once Vi Lyles did actually file. But this candidate, her name is Terry Donovan. She had the full GOP support behind her. We were there this morning. You mentioned that filing closed at noon. I think she showed up around 10:30 a.m. to file. So kind of close to the last second, but she got in there with a whole swath of supporters.
All right. What do we know about her?
Well, to be honest, we don't know a whole lot yet. Actually, the name was a surprise. Usually we'll get clued in a little bit ahead of time from, people within the party or the candidates themselves. Like Tijuana Brown, for example, put out a memo to everybody publicly on Facebook saying, hey, I'm going to file at this time. We had no idea exactly when they would file. We knew it would be that morning, likely around 10, and we didn't know anything about them, who it was. We learned the name the second she walked in. We know she has a real estate background. She's been doing that for years and years. And we asked her, what are the reasons you are running. She mentioned, of course, the tumultuous last term that Charlotte City Council has been through, said it's time for a change. And we pressed her a little bit more like, what does that look like for you? She said accountability and transparency, especially in terms of budget. Also in terms of crime. She brought up that shooting in Uptown this past weekend and how we didn't really hear from leaders with the city in a timely manner. And she said that is something that needs to change, and that's something she would hope to change if she was elected.
All right, so one Republican and the rest Democrats?
We got one Libertarian as well, but yes, other than that, 5 Democrats on the ballot. So it's going to be a crowded primary come September, for sure.
All right. What else can you tell us about your story for today?
Oh, goodness. Well, of course, you just listened to Mayor Lyles talking. I think that's really going to be the interesting back and forth. And we also knew, for example, Jennifer Roberts was even going to get in at one point.
That's right.
We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
So this has just been, I mean, we're not even close to the primaries yet, really, in the grand scheme of things. But it's been a real back and forth over this seat. But without Jennifer Roberts there in that race, former Mayor Jennifer Roberts, it really does clear the way for Mayor Vi Lyles to get a lot of support, as we expect, in that primary. But I think it'll be interesting to see her have like an actual GOP-backed Republican challenger, which is something we haven't really seen in a while.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear more about what her platform is and her approach and her reasons for running. So hopefully between now and September, we will learn more about that. And then the Libertarian?
I actually haven't gotten a chance to meet with him yet. He's one of the ones where I didn't, his name I believe is Rob Yates. I have not gotten a chance because I didn't see an announcement from him about timing. We've been kind of staking out at the Board of Elections all week, so we've kind of gotten to run into some people by chance, which is nice. I did miss him. But I know after those primaries, we're going to do some more longer form stories of just like, here's what's on the ballot. This is what they think about X, Y, and Z. I think for the mayor's race, as we talked about, it's accountability. It's transit and it's crime, I think, is really what's top of people's minds. Affordable housing in there as well. So those are kind of the strategies that we're looking at getting a bit clearer picture on their platforms. Of course, we know where Mayor Vi Lyles stands. Everyone else here is kind of open field, so we'll see.
All right. Between now and September, a lot to cover and learn about.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Julie, coming in for the Live Impact Studio version of latest in the elections and who is going to be running for your next Charlotte mayor. Thanks so much. All right, let's stay on politicians. Why not? North Carolina Governor Josh Stein in Western North Carolina earlier yesterday, I should say. He was there yesterday covering the Helene recovery efforts. Today, I know he is making a visit to Chapel Hill, looking and assessing the damage done from Chantal. But yesterday, just sort of learning firsthand, boots on the ground kind of thing, learning about what they need. So here is his chat with local media there. We're going to play this for you now on WCNC Plus.
Happy to talk to you all. I'm here in Hot Springs. My wife Anna and I, she's over there, have been in Western North Carolina all week, visiting towns like Hot Springs to see how the recovery is coming. And what we want is to make sure that the rest of North Carolina understands that Western North Carolina is open for business. That we have this campaign we've just launched called Rediscover the Unforgettable. And when you think about Western North Carolina, there's unforgettable beauty, unforgettable crafts, unforgettable craft beer like here at Big Pillow, unforgettable people. And we want everyone watching this to know, hey, if you've got a few days free this summer, come to Western North Carolina. You will have a great time, but in the same time, you're going to be helping people as they recover and get their businesses back up and running.
What's the most impactful thing you've seen on your visits throughout Western North Carolina?
The toughness, resilience of the people. Folks, I mean, they had 3 feet of mud in their businesses, and they were out here mucking it out. And just to be able to get your business open in March or in April, within months of that storm coming through, so you're here ready for customers over the summertime, it just shows how committed they are to the community, because a place like this brewery, it's more than a place to buy food and drink. It's a place for the community to come together. And I've really been impressed by how people really care about the communities they live in.
What do you have to say to people that don't have their businesses back open yet?
The businesses I met with here in Hot Springs, at least 3 of them have received a grant from the Small Business Grant Program done by a combination of Dogwood Health Trust in the state of North Carolina. We need more programs like that to support our small businesses. They've worked so hard to spend money to get back open. They lost a ton of revenue. They lost out on the fall. They lost out on Christmas. We need to help them keep their doors open to welcome these customers. So we need more small business assistance from the General Assembly. I continue to push that at every opportunity.
Governor, just your thoughts on the Attorney General suing for $200 million for sewer and water pipe replacement. Just what are your thoughts on that to get more help out here for West North Carolina?
Well, Congress appropriated funding for, it's called the BRIC program. It's about resilience, investments in infrastructure that can help communities like Hot Springs be positioned for the next storm. And the Trump administration on its own took that money away. They don't have the legal authority to do that. So I'm grateful to Attorney General Jeff Jackson for bringing that action to make sure that the people of North Carolina get the support that they are entitled to under the law.
We'll take one more question.
Governor, for the businesses that are open, obviously you've been visiting with them all day today. How encouraging is it for you to see those businesses open?
Yeah, you come to these towns and it's really incredible. You know, we were in Marshall earlier today. Went to the old jail there that's now a restaurant bar, and around the corner an incredible craft store. You can come here and have a wonderful time. And when you're doing that, you're helping out local commerce. You're helping out those businesses. Those businesses employ people. People need income to pay for their rent. It is all dependent on itself. And I just hope the people of North Carolina who watch this tell themselves, let's go have a great time. Let's go rediscover the unforgettable in Western North Carolina.
Thank you all very much. Governor.
Thanks for being here.
And as we recover from Helene, our hearts also go out to the folks in Texas who are still dealing with the aftermath following the flooding from July 4th, especially in the Hill Country area. And so tonight and this weekend here on WCNC Plus, we're airing or streaming this Hearts and Heroes special covering from really that first flash flood alert in Texas. And from there to the lives changed forever. So it's airing several times here on our streaming platform, WCNC Plus. We thank you for downloading it to your Roku, Fire, and Apple TVs. So starting tonight at 7 o'clock, once again at 11:30, and both Saturday and Sunday airing again at noon, 6:30, and 11:30 throughout the weekend on WCNC Plus. Back out here at 141 on Live Impact Studio on WCNC Plus. We are continuing to follow breaking news out of LA. This is a live shot right now overhead, a training facility for the LA Sheriff's Department. An explosion happened around 7:30 this morning, and they have confirmed 3 deputies killed. Let's listen in live to their coverage now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, it looks like the helicopter reporter, sounds like they're taking a little bit of a briefing, but just grabbing these live aerial shots where you see a little bit of that yellow tape cordoning off very large areas of this facility. Pretty vast,
right.
Covering a lot of big area.
We've been expecting a press conference. The sheriff is supposed to be coming by and talking to media. We said that about 45 minutes ago. They said that.
They said
we
any
still
minute
have
now.
not seen
No
the press briefing, but once it comes up, we'll stream it to you.
All right, very good. All we know, though, is it happened around 7:30, reported at 7:30, and folks there nearby responded to the scene that are first responders, and they saw that something terrible had occurred, and so they went over to the scene. But just a tragic situation as we continue to wait for the press conference to start and give us the latest. But the White House is aware of the situation, as well as, Kristi Noem, the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, and we will wait for some responses from there. All right now we will switch back over to North Carolina news, and on the news of cuts to FEMA affecting especially victims from Helene in Western North Carolina. Attorney General Jeff Jackson has filed a lawsuit suing for over $200 million in cuts to FEMA funds that people desperately need so far. And so he did speak to our Nick Sturdivant earlier this week, and here is that interview now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
So we got this into our newsroom before we got on the stream, but it's regarding a lawsuit. So North Carolina Attorney General Jeff Jackson filed a lawsuit against FEMA for canceling a federal program. It's called Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, also known as BRIC, that allocated over $200 million to protect the state's infrastructure. The cancellation, according to Attorney General Jeff Jackson's office, affects critical infrastructure projects, including water and sewer services, which have been damaged by storms. I want to bring in live on the show Attorney General Jeff Jackson. Attorney General Jackson, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Good to see you.
Can you talk about the long-term impact that this will have on residents here in North Carolina?
Sure. Here's the issue. This program, which was President Trump in his first term, is designed to protect our infrastructure against floods. And we're prone to those in North Carolina, as folks have recently seen. So a lot of this is about taking some critical infrastructure like pump stations, sewer lines, and moving them up above the floodplains. We have over 60 of these projects in North Carolina for which funding was designated. It's over $200 million, as you said, to the state, which is a whole lot of money. So we have filed suit, and we think we have a very strong legal case.
Does this have any impact, and I'm thinking of, because we're approaching a year since Helene hit Western North Carolina, does this have any impact on the recovery efforts there? And also, I'm thinking about the recent flooding in Central North Carolina. Will this cut in the program have any impact on those recovery efforts?
It's not going to affect recovery. It is going to affect the next flood. Specifically, you mentioned the flooding we had in the central part of the state recently. In Hillsborough, they had a few days where they couldn't treat their wastewater because the pump station there was flooded. Well, that pump station is on the list of projects that have been designated to receive funding, basically to move it above and out of the flood zone. We just know now in North Carolina which pieces of critical infrastructure are most vulnerable when there's a flood. We had our list. We gave it to this program, FEMA's program. They designated these places as being worthy of receiving funds, and now they've pulled the rug out.
So what happens in the meantime? As this plays out with the lawsuit, how does the state plan to fill the gap with this program now being cut?
Well, you're right. The lawsuit will take a while to resolve, but our specific request in this lawsuit is that the court treat this as an emergency, particularly because, we are entering, we are actually in the middle of hurricane season right now, but other municipalities have already put money into a lot of these projects in reliance of FEMA doing their end as they have pledged to do. So our lawsuit requests the court to treat this as an emergency, put an injunction in place, and basically tell FEMA, hey, while this lawsuit is pending, you cannot pull the rug out and take these funds away.
Have you heard from the Trump administration or any of the other AGs on this lawsuit? Have they heard from the Trump administration? And have they given a specific reason on why they are canceling this program?
No, we have not. However, this was Trump's program that he created, and we have a statement from Senator Tillis and from Representative Chuck Edwards asking FEMA to reconsider cancellation here. So this is a totally bipartisan effort as far as I'm concerned. And the impact of it, if we don't fix it, will be completely bipartisan because it's going to be felt across communities all across the state.
Attorney General Jeff Jackson, thank you for your time. You've been so generous with your time. Thank you again for joining us here on Live Impact News.
Thank you. Take care.
And again, you guys, that is Attorney General Jeff Jackson there giving us his response after, again, we got that information about the lawsuit impacting that, regarding that federal program that would impact infrastructure here in North Carolina. And again, James pointed this out, and I want to make sure I point this out as well. Scrolling down, as far as impacts, those local projects, those key projects here that will lose funding from the BRIC program. So in Salisbury, and James, chime in just to give some more context if you can. So in Salisbury, $22.5 million to relocate a flood-prone pump station on the Yadkin River, with the city having already invested $3 million locally. And so
that's right. Yeah, we have those numbers on the screen right there. And as you just heard from the Attorney General, some of these local jurisdictions had already invested money into some of these projects. So I think in their news release, Nick, as you cited, this was one of them. And so this is actually the whole list that they sent out. We put them on a little bit of an easier to read graphic, but you can see how many.
It's a lot. Just to show you how many.
Exciting, yeah.
And also Gastonia, $5.9 million to restore creek banks and move sewer lines to prevent flood damage. And again, a lot of this, I know I asked about current recovery efforts, but a lot of this is preventative things for the next storm, as Attorney General Jeff Jackson weighed in. For a lot of folks, that next storm was Tropical Depression Chantal, as it hit central North Carolina, and we showed you those images in that video from the flooding in Durham County, Orange County, and so on there, and even Alamance County, which is close to my
yeah, I know you just
hometown.
talked to the State Attorney General about this, Nick, but if I punch that list back up on the screen, Hillsborough, which we know was hit hard by Chantal and a lot of the recent floodings, was awarded $5.8 million according to the Attorney General's office for the river pumping station. And so that is probably one of those key projects that we're seeing kind of in live time, Nick, where these projects are meant to mitigate or build resilience against floods, whether they be from tropical storms or just these training thunderstorms that we know that community has been seeing.
And of course, we do know President Trump's tax and spending cut now in effect after he signed it into law on the 4th of July. With this legislation, it extends cuts set to expire at the end of 2025. I interviewed Mark Henry. He is of Alloy Wealth here in Charlotte, local financial expert, to weigh in on what this means. And this was our interview yesterday. So if you missed it, I'm going to play it for you again here on WCNC+. 9:46 this morning. We've been talking about President Trump's tax and spending cut bill, the one big beautiful bill, now a reality since he signed it into law on July 4th. And this legislation does so many things, right? So we're going to try to cut through some of that. We know the tax cuts, they were set to expire at the end of 2025. So that's been extended, but it also adds an estimated over $3 trillion to the national deficit over the next decade. And with tariffs already making headlines as well, we want to see what North Carolinians and South Carolinians need to do. We're all wondering, where's the money? So we brought in Mark Henry from Alloy Wealth to try to cut through some of the fat here, Mark, and share how this is going to impact our wallets. Mark, thank you for joining us here in the Live Impact studio. First of all,
thanks for having me on. I'm so excited.
Always great to have you. Let's start with the basics. What is the purpose of this act? What were lawmakers trying to accomplish?
Main reason for the act was tax cuts, to make them permanent. So that was a big deal. They're set to expire. Most economists believe that would have been devastating. We would have seen huge tax increases that could have slowed the economy. This roll that we're on right now, which is a good thing, would have abruptly ended, and a lot of Americans would have been scrambling to figure out what's going to happen with their paycheck, because it's already tough enough, and now we got more taxes. So that would have been an issue. So that was the main goal and purpose. And guess what? Check, that one's solved.
Okay, so what of the trade-off then for the $3.3 trillion deficit, but now $4.5 trillion in tax cuts?
That's right. So some people want to worry about we're adding to the deficit, which is already extremely high and stuff. However, by most people's accounts, it really looks like tariffs are working, and we're collecting a lot more money than we ever have. If, along with extending these tax cuts, we now continue to create job growth and businesses grow because they know what the taxes are going to be, that could result in a real win, and that's what we're all hoping for.
Look, we're talking about real savings for households. What does that translate to?
Well, so some of the parts of this that really affect people the most would be, let's talk about the younger workers.
Okay.
They got the no tax on tips passed. Now, just when you say no tax on tips, there are things that always go into these things. So there's certain amounts and things like that. But for most all workers that get tips, they are now not going to be taxed. They can report them like they should have been doing, and they will not be taxing them on their tips. Also, overtime bill was passed. So again, up to a certain amount, but now your overtime is really going to help you. So it's going to allow those hourly workers to go be that best employee, get the extra money, and keep it. That's the big thing, keep the extra money.
Right, okay. And then how about, we're talking about new tax breaks, other tax breaks.
Yeah, well, Social Security. So, why can't it just be simple, Jane? Where,
Yes.
Hey, no tax on Social Security. That sounds really good. I love that. You've already paid tax. So for all the seniors, that's what we wanted. Did we get that? Yeah, kind of. So what we got instead of no tax on Social Security is a $6,000 deduction that for workers 65 and older who earn more than $75,000 a year as a person, or up to $150,000 as a couple. So what that means is it's going to cover the tax on your Social Security up to a certain point. When you earn in retirement over $150,000, all of a sudden it's phasing back in, and you are going to start paying tax on Social Security. So this made it a little more complicated, but overall, big win for retired seniors, especially those living on Social Security with a modest income.
Okay, so with the
Big win.
all right, so we're reading it here on text. I always feel like the words are a good visual. So $6,000 deduction. This really for Americans 65 and older.
That's
Good
right.
benefit for this.
Yep.
All right, but they have to make a certain amount.
Have to make less than a certain amount
less than a
before
certain
we
amount.
lose it. That's correct.
Okay, and then
But it's a big deal. It's a good thing.
Absolutely. We talked about offline here about SNAP benefits and how that is affected. People are talking about my benefits are going to be cut. What's the caveat with that?
A lot of people worried about the reductions in Medicare and SNAP spending and stuff. Well, the reality is they want to make sure that people claiming food stamps should be getting them. So in other words, if you're simply getting them and living on them, but you're an able-bodied worker and you're not even trying to work because you're getting enough money without working, that's not going to work anymore. You're going to have to work a certain amount of time to continue to get your benefits, certain number of hours and things like that. And so most people, I think, can get their mind around the idea that, yes, if I can work, I should. And so I don't think that's a big thing. They also talk about the people that potentially could lose Medicare benefits or Medicaid benefits, things like that. Overall, when you really dig into it, it seems like those would be people that maybe shouldn't even be on it at all. So a lot of discussion there, but more to unpack. One of the biggest things, though, not necessarily for North Carolinians and South, because our taxes are not, they seem high enough. Let me be very clear. They seem very high.
Sure.
But in comparison to New York, to California, they are not high. I think everybody could agree with that. So the SALT deduction, when you say SALT, what in the world is that? That's the state and local income tax deduction. It was capped at $10,000. It's been raised to $40,000. So that's going to apply more to moderate, medium or higher household incomes and people that live in a bigger house that pay a lot of tax. It won't affect as many people in North Carolina because you could have a very modest home in New York and you need that deduction because your taxes may be $20,000, $30,000 on a simple home. So that's a big deal. They wanted that to go for 10 years, to be extended for at least 10 years. They didn't get it. It only went for 5 years. But it's a big win for a lot of the northern states for 5 years.
Okay. Mark, let's talk about tariffs, right? Because that's part of this and how inflation needs to be tempered a little bit, right?
No question.
And so with the tariffs into effect, you said that it is paying for a lot of things already and that there is benefit. But for those naysayers or doubters that this is going to help us in the near future, what do you say to them?
The proof's in the pudding. we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it completed. We still have many, many nations that have not signed agreements. We have some that are arguing about them, and so it's still in process. But what we have seen so far is they are working. That does not mean when you go and buy something you're not paying too much. I am not saying that at all, and it is definitely still hard. But I personally see signs of this really starting to work and what it could do for average Americans. And I really believe we're going to get to a place where this is going to be like, okay, not what I thought, this is actually going to work. And I definitely want to throw in, too, the savings account for children being born.
Yes, please. I was going to ask about families and younger families, right?
Because a lot of families need this. You know, our president, like, dislike, reality is he wants people to have children. He wants to do more for traditional American families that want to have kids. So now we've got a one-time deposit of $1,000 from the federal government for those children born in 24 through 28. That's a big deal. It will also be available to any child who is a U.S. citizen under the age of 8. Parents will be able to contribute to this savings account. It will be invested in a diversified fund that tracks the U.S. stock market. Earnings will grow tax deferred, and qualified withdrawals are taxed as long-term capital gains. So this is a huge thing for young people. It's going to help them save more and give them another reason to have beautiful children.
All right, so for families watching right now, or parents that have us on in their office, how should they prepare for these changes that are already in effect, and should there be some tax planning strategies?
There definitely should. So if you're a hourly worker, I think you need to start planning for what that could look like. Make sure you're doing your withholdings correctly. For instance, you may need to adjust them. Now, the goal is, at the end of the year, I always tell people, I would like to see you get a refund of a couple $1,000s or have to pay a couple $1,000. Maybe it's $1,000 for some workers. But the reality is you don't want the government to keep too much of your money during the year, because that's money you could have put to work paying down debt, student loans, and other things. But you also aren't prepared to write a big check at the end of the year.
That's right.
So evaluate your situation closely. Talk to a qualified person about, hey, I get a lot of tips. I can claim them now. How does that affect my tax and my withholdings? What should I be doing?
Okay. Anything else that we should know about today?
Have confidence and faith. We're going to get through this. It's challenging for a lot of people right now. There's parts of this new big, beautiful bill, or big, stupid bill, whatever you want to call it. There's parts of it that I love. There's parts I don't. Imagine that in life.
Right.
But here's the good news. Wake up tomorrow, go crush the day, and put a plan in place to get where you want to be in your life.
Okay, Mark Henry, as always, I feel like you are leaning towards a positive outlook on this situation, though.
Yes, I absolutely am, 100%.
All right. Mark Henry breaking it down for us, this one big, beautiful bill, a little bit of, well, a lot of the impact that we're going to see and already seeing right now. Again, so much to cover with that. So this is just the beginning of so many changes. All right, good planning makes for a good life. Thank you, Mark Henry, for planning on coming out here in the Live Impact studio.
All right, everyone. It is 2:01. It's great to be with you inside the Impact Studio. I'm Colin Mayfield, alongside some of my colleagues, James Brierton. We've got Carlene Bragg still here as well. We do want to check in with our Jesse Pierre. I know it's hot, Jesse, so I appreciate you standing out there and giving us this information. But a big day in terms of CMS, and we're getting more information on potentially, some ICE situations, right? How this led to 2 teenagers being shot in Uptown. Can you talk a little bit more about this, flesh out this story for us? Don't give us all of the details. I know you have to do your report at 4, 5, and 6, but give us some information.
Got it. Okay, so first off, to clarify, that was a mix of 2 different stories, so there's no shooting involved in any of this. So overall, CMS is giving all of these, their principals, this training manual, and so this is all about how to handle ICE agents if they come to their campus, because there are guidelines that had been removed or been taken away that no longer has schools as protected spaces, or and so forth. And so ICE is allowed in public areas, and so within this manual that principals have gotten, it kind of goes through what to do. And, you know, ICE is allowed to go to the public spaces like school lobbies, waiting areas, and parking lots without permission. However, if they are going to go further, if they need to go further, if they need to arrest someone or go into a classroom, for example, which would be private spaces, they would need a subpoena or they would need a warrant, and that would need to be signed by a judicial judge. Even in this manual, it breaks down like the difference between, you know, a warrant or a subpoena signed by a judicial judge or an immigration judge or administrative judge. And so if it is an immigration one, then compliance by the school is not required. Now, the first thing that they are asked to do, the principal or staff is asked to contact Office of General Counsel, pretty much their legal counsel, to verify that the document is valid. And, you know, once they know who has signed it and so forth, breaking down the document, then they can figure out if they must comply or not. And if, again, it is signed by a judicial judge, pretty much the school's hands are tied in that place. And so ICE agents are able to speak, interrogate any student, parents, or staff on campus. And that's kind of pretty much what this manual is about. It's kind of reaffirming for, you know, school staff to stay calm. But again, if it is signed, if they have the proper documentation, ICE agents are able to come on campus and, you know, investigate what they need to investigate, and also the school would need to comply in those cases. Colin?
Yes, that was my mistake. Sorry. I know that the two teenagers shot in Uptown. That was a story that you were also following up on, so my apologies. You're doing two stories at once. Look at you go. Our Jessie Pierre leading the newsroom, as she always does here at WCNC. Jessie, really quickly, this would indicate to me that there are going to be potentially more operations that could happen on CMS grounds. Did officials say that they're bracing for that? Do they expect that? Did they say anything about that? Just to kind of give, you know, parents just an idea. Any indications there?
You know, it's at the end of the day, you just never know, right, what ICE is going to do. But what we do know is that they are allowed to enter the school campus. And so this is really CMS kind of getting ahead of the ball and just making sure that their staff is prepared, knows what to do. And, you know, I don't know what they'll be sending out to parents and so forth, but so that folks know exactly what goes on if an ICE agent comes on campus.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you following up. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your report at 4, 5, and 6. Hydrate if you can. Appreciate you being out in the sweltering heat, you and your photographer. So thank you so much. Again, we'll continue to follow the latest, and Jessie will as well on WCNC and over on our other platforms, our mobile app, WCNC and WCNC Plus, which we're on now. So if you already have us downloaded, great. Tell your friends and family, because those are the folks that we want to obviously reach. Make sure you keep these on as well throughout the day, because we have reports just like that that you saw with Jane also. So we do want to get now to some weather, the forecast. Obviously, it's a big weekend here in Charlotte. I think Charlotte FC is in Atlanta, guys. A big match for them as they hunt for the playoffs. But they've got a lot of other events happening in Uptown and across town.
The Knights are playing this weekend.
That's right. They're in town. They got a long homestand.
The Gastonia is in town. It's supposed to be Christmas
Ghost
in
Peppers.
July.
There we go.
Today,
Christmas in July.
I'm like, can you imagine wearing a Santa hat or a Santa suit in this weather?
Actually, I will say really quick.
Yeah.
My son, my little boy, and some of my other kids actually model for Little Sleepies, and we did a Christmas shoot the other day. And so it's so interesting that yeah.
Outside?
No. We did it inside,
Okay.
but it was with like all like Christmas stuff, and
You're
it was
all bundled
weird.
up.
Well, yeah, and they had Christmas music playing, like Christina Aguilera, and I was like, okay, you know what I mean? As a
You're
parent,
getting the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, you like the Christmas stuff, you know what I mean? When you're a parent, and you like the joy that people bring out during that time of year. So anyway, it's not going to feel like Christmas, that's for sure. I don't know if you guys have had to swim through the humidity to get here today.
Oh yeah.
But I was telling my mother-in-law that, man, it's this humidity really gets to you. I don't know if it's getting older, if it gets worse.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
I don't know.
You get kind of. I mean, you get kind of used to it.
Yeah, my dad was raised in New Orleans,
here.
so
I'm from Charleston, so I'm like, I know humidity.
Yeah.
But
James,
even
are you used to
still,
it?
It's annoying.
Is anyone used to this?
That's true. It's a great point.
That's what I'm here for. Great points.
It's a great point. All right, let's get to the forecast and what to be weather alert on this weekend.
Good Friday afternoon. We are weather alert for the heat today as actual high temperatures will be climbing to the middle to upper 90s across the metro area, but it's going to be the feels like temperature that will get you. When you start to see those heat index values climb above a 103, that's the danger zone, and we will see those peak heat index values close to around 105 across the metro, which is why heat advisories are in place from 2 p.m. all the way through about 7, 8 o'clock in all counties shaded in orange. But we all will be feeling the heat. In fact, 3-day heat impacts, you can see all of us pretty much in the major category as heat only continues to build. Heat will also be a big story this weekend, but also going to be looking at a chance for a couple of showers and thunderstorms today. That main coverage is going to be north of the yellow line. That especially encompasses the mountains, foothills, and northern Piedmont area. Now, 4-day forecast, you can see temperatures will stay in the middle to upper 90s throughout the weekend. Only about a 30 to 20% chance to see a hit or miss shower or thunderstorm. Most locations will stay dry and temperatures will start to cool down as we head into the start of the work week. High temperatures today soar into the lower to middle up to I hate myself so much.
All right, so as you heard, dangerous heat going to be a issue for a lot of folks. Thankfully, I guess half of it's going to be over the weekend when a lot of folks are off. I realize that a lot of people do work, obviously, on the weekend, so please take precautions. My mind always thinks about our first responders, our construction workers, people that work on roofs. Nowadays, man, hot stuff to have to do. And I know there's a lot of other jobs that I'm missing, but I can't even imagine putting on a fire suit, which kind of gives us a segue to LA right now, where we know 3 deputies were killed after an explosion at an East LA Sheriff training facility here. And so very tragic news. Clearly, we don't really know the extent of any other injuries that I'm seeing at this point, guys.
Before that there was one that was in the hospital critical before.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was KMBC mentioned that, I don't know, maybe an hour ago.
Okay.
So
you're looking at now KABC's feed, which is a live shot of, I believe, where they have a staging area away from this scene, I would imagine. And we are awaiting an update, I do believe. You said, James, at 3 o'clock, top of the hour?
3 o'clock Eastern,
Okay.
12 o'clock Pacific, in
Awesome.
about 45 minutes and change.
Man, what a story to happen here on a Friday. But again, I'll just kind of run through some of the details here. Again, 3 deputies killed. That explosion reported early Friday. So this situation's been going on for quite some time. Obviously, bringing you that right here on WCNC Plus with Jane Monroe all throughout the day. But it happened at this training academy on the 1000 block of Northeastern Avenue. That's according to LASD. It was reported around 7:30 a.m. So obviously a lot of folks going to work at that time, especially in the LA area. So the LA County Sheriff's Department did issue a brief statement immediately after the explosion saying, tragically, there were 3 department member fatalities. Sheriff's homicide detectives are on scene. The FBI LA, ATF are assisting LASD. There is still an active scene, and further details will be forthcoming. So that's what we're waiting now. And I do believe KNBC is on the air. I'm not exactly sure if we're able to get that feed up at some point, guys, but we will double check and continue following up on this story. And we do have, as you can see, live images coming in from the scene. A very unusual situation that this was happening at a training center. Obviously, it's dangerous in any respectable job that you're doing, especially with law enforcement, right? But you don't normally hear of a training facility attached to local law enforcement, to have an explosion like this. So the investigation is ongoing. I'm sure that they will be very thorough in that. But Kristi Noem did speak on this, and we know there are a lot of federal officials that are in not only LA and the county, but also in California as a whole. So the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, did comment saying updates will be provided as they become available. She did say pray for our law enforcement and their loved ones. And Attorney General Pam Bondi also putting out a social media post a little bit earlier saying that she spoke to U.S. Attorney Bill Iseli. I'm sure I messed that name up, excuse me, but she spoke to that Attorney General after this whole situation happened. So again, federal agents are on scene, making sure that they comb through the evidence. And there's the live picture that we are looking for and waiting for an update from LA County officials. So we'll continue to follow this situation on the ground and on WCNC Plus. And in fact, we might have maybe some coverage right here, guys. Do we want to go to this?
Yeah, let's go to this.
All right, let's go to this now. We'll let you listen in, and we'll provide feedback when we need to.
Here either, but we do know from Julia Deng's reporting this morning from News Chopper 4 that she spotted multiple sheriff's vehicles and personnel arriving and stationing here at LA General Medical Center. They were right outside the entrance where ambulances unload patients, and right now, though in the last hour or so we've only seen one sheriff's unit in the area of the ER. We did inquire of the hospital about the condition of the injured LASD sergeant that we understand was reportedly taken here. The hospital issued a statement saying, quote, "We are aware of the tragic incident that occurred this morning involving members of the LA County Sheriff's Department. Out of respect for patient privacy and in accordance with HIPAA and California privacy laws, we are unable to share any information regarding individuals who may have been brought to our facility. We extend our deepest condolences to the families and colleagues affected by this devastating event." The hospital right now referring all inquiries and requests for information to the LA County Sheriff's Department. Reporting live from Boyle Heights, Ted Chen, NBC4 News. Back to you in Universal City.
All right, Ted, thank you very much. We appreciate that update.
And joining us on the phone right now is LA County Supervisor Catherine Barker. Supervisor, thank you so much for being with us. We are a community in mourning with the Sheriff's Department. Is there any new information that you can give us this morning?
No, what you're covering is pretty accurate. You know, obviously, I'm heartbroken by the tragic explosion and the impact that it's had on 3 families who said goodbye to their loved one this morning, never thinking that this would happen. And you know, I express my thanks to LA County Fire as well as our federal partner, the FBI, who secured the scene and provided immediate support. But we are all in mourning, and this is a very, very difficult time, and a reminder of the job that our first responders do, and the fact that this can happen speaks volumes to their commitment and dedication to protecting the lives of the citizens of LA County.
Supervisor Barker, if you can, you know, we understand that it's an all-hands-on-deck situation right now. Are you starting to get a little bit more information, or, you know, how soon do you think you'll start getting just bits and pieces as they try to, you know, put this investigation into play here?
Yeah, and I think it's important, you know, as I was just talking to staff, without information, the vacuum is filled with misinformation, and I think it's important for us to get the facts out. Clearly, I think that they put the priority right now on notifying the family and working with the families that have been impacted by this, and I respect that. I think it's important to remember that the 3 individuals who lost their lives have loved ones that may or may not know what is going on, and so I respect the fact that the priority is there, but we need to get the facts forward. Early on, there was a rumor that it might have been a terrorist attack, and that was dispelled quickly. And in fact, it was an accident. But you know, the press conference at 11:45, I believe, today by the sheriff will fill in those blanks. You know, we need to get the facts out there. The investigation's already began. If the FBI is on site, I guarantee you that the investigation's already began, and I do not know what the conclusion will be or even how much they'll be able to provide on that. But it's important for us to be transparent as well in terms of how we conduct the investigation.
Supervisor, I know you have obviously a long history in the city of Los Angeles. Can you give us any perspective about the training center? There have been other instances in the past, other accidents. Any insight that you can give us about what happens at this training center? Because it is such an expansive lot and so close to neighborhoods, also to the freeway, all of that.
Well, first of all, I mean, you know, I know that the training that is provided there is similar to what happens with LA City's bombs. So you have the best of the best as a part of this unit. But let us not forget, accidents happen, and it's important for us to find out what happened. But it doesn't mean that the the squad in and of itself did anything wrong. We need to find out those facts. But I always caution with the fact that we are quick to judge and say, why did that happen? But accidents still happen. And this may very well be a tragic accident, but I'm going to wait for the experts to tell us what happened and then what lessons learned so that we can correct that moving forward. So I honestly don't have an answer for that, but I always get frustrated when people assume it may have been lack of training. This bomb squad, mutual aid with LAPD, I would argue the best of the best.
All right, and as you said, Sheriff Robert Luna will be giving us a press conference in less than an hour, so we are awaiting that and hopefully gather some more information, just to not,
I agree.
just
I think it's
to
important
stop
for us to get the
everybody
facts
else
out
from
there
this
for the people.
misunderstandings.
Supervisor, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. And our team coverage continues with our investigative reporter, Eric Leonard.
He's been following the story since it broke this morning. Eric.
Hey, good morning. So I can give you a little more specific information about the series of events that led to what happened from a number of our law enforcement contacts who are familiar with what went on this morning. This all began with a call out, which is a call into the arson and explosives detail, which is what we call the bomb squad at the Sheriff's Department, that came from the Lakewood area. That's a community the Sheriff's Department patrols towards the south end of LA County. And at that call, the Sheriff's arson and explosives deputies, the bomb technicians, were asked to look at several items that were described as potentially small military-style explosive items. We've been given a name, but we're not sure that's the correct name. And whatever these items actually were, it appears that the deputies believed that they were not of great hazard, not of great danger, and those items were transported back to the parking lot in East LA where this explosion happened. Early this morning, those items were being removed from one vehicle, possibly to be taken into a building or taken to another vehicle, and that's when they detonated. We know that the three deputies who were closest were killed there at the scene, and a sheriff's sergeant who was close by was seriously injured and is recovering. A number of our law enforcement contacts tell us that this is a bit of a head scratcher for them because there is such care that is given whenever there is an item that is a potential explosive device. Their priority is to make it safe so that it doesn't harm anybody. Usually, if there is concern that an item is a potential explosive device, they want to disrupt it or detonate it. Render it safe is the term that they use right there at the scene where it's found, because it's just so dangerous to move items like these around. We know that wasn't done in this case. If these items are moved, they're typically moved inside what they call an explosive containment vessel, which is a steel sphere that is supposed to withstand an explosion should something detonate inside of it. And we didn't see that happen here. It could have, but we didn't see any evidence that that's how these were moved. And so a lot of the folks in the law enforcement community that are very familiar with dealing with explosives and hazardous items say they have a hard time understanding why a device like this would have been brought back to this parking lot. The sheriff's arson explosives, as you heard the LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger say they're extremely skilled. This is their business. Not only do they know how to safely handle items like this, but they also are fully aware of the potential danger and the potential hazard. And so there must have been a reason that this item was being, or these items were being moved the way that they were, or perhaps, as some others of our law enforcement contacts have speculated, it was unclear that these items were as dangerous as they turned out to be. They've been described as some kind of military ordnance, but we were cautioned to say this does not look like a conventional explosive item that might be part of a military's inventory. When those items have been discovered, just anecdotally, not dealing with this case in particular, sometimes members of the U.S. Marine Corps stationed at Camp Pendleton who specialize in what they call EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. They're called either to consult or to come look at the item itself, because they're the real subject matter experts when it comes to military-style items. And in this case, we're told that didn't happen. So the thinking that we've been hearing from some of our law enforcement contacts is whatever happened here, these items did not appear on their surface to be as dangerous as they turned out to be. The Sheriff's Department's bomb squad, other explosive experts in law enforcement have lots of ways of examining suspicious items to find out if they're actually dangerous. They can do chemical tests on items to see if there is residue or chemical traces that are commonly found in explosives. That gives them a good indication without ever actually opening up a particular object. There are dogs that can sniff for some of those component chemicals. And then if they go hands-on, meaning a deputy or an officer or an agent goes right up to the device to look at it, there's a lot of things they can see just by observing it, but they can also do things to look inside it. Oftentimes they use a portable X-ray machine to look inside objects that could contain explosives, and that will give them a pretty clear idea of whether or not something is dangerous or too dangerous to move and has to be dealt with right there where the items are found. So again, members of the arson explosives detail sent down into the Lakewood area. That's where they retrieved these objects that they believe are the ones that exploded in the parking lot of their offices in East Los Angeles. The whole facility is called the training center, the Biscaluz Training Center, but within that, there are offices for a lot of the specialty units in the Sheriff's Department. That's where this happened. Back to you guys.
You know, Eric, I know you've been working your sources all morning long, and we are expecting to hear from Sheriff Luna. There's so many questions we all have about what happened, but it would seem to me that what we're going to hear from him is about the 3 people that we lost.
I believe so. The Sheriff's Department sent out a notification several hours ago now, notifying all of its employees of exactly who was involved in this incident, because even though it's a nearly 10,000 member department of deputies, a lot of people know each other. It's a small community, even though it's a large department. And especially when you get into specialized units, which require an enormous amount of specialized expertise, it's an even smaller community where everyone knows one another, not just within the Sheriff's Department, mind you, but in these niche specialty areas. There's a lot of training and collaboration that goes on amongst other law enforcement agencies. So the people that work in bombs and explosives at the Sheriff's often know the people in other agencies as well. Back to you guys.
All right, Eric, thank you so much for that. We appreciate any information that you give us. All right, we're also hearing from leaders here and in Washington, D.C. this morning.
Our Adrian Rambulo joins us live now in the newsroom with more on that. Adrian.
From nearly a dozen local, state, and federal leaders regarding this tragedy, and so far many expressing their condolences and prayers for the LA County Sheriff's Department. United States Attorney General Pam Bondi saying, quote, "I just spoke with the Sheriff Luna and have the FBI and ATF agents on the ground to support. Please pray for the entire Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department." And a new statement from Governor Newsom's office says, quote, "The state has deployed investigative personnel from the Office of the State Fire Marshal at the request of the ATF. They are en route." At the county level, Supervisor Janice Hahn just said, quote, "This is an extraordinarily painful day for our Sheriff's Department and for LA County. I am offering my full support to our Sheriff Robert Luna and his department as they not only work to support our deputies, but to investigate what went so wrong. We need to get to the bottom of what happened and make sure that it never happens again." And finally, LA Mayor Karen Bass speaking out, calling this a horrific incident, ending her statement saying, quote, "The thoughts of all Angelinos are with those impacted by this blast." So this has captured the attention of officials at the highest levels of government and law enforcement, again at the federal, state, and local levels. All people, entities involved offering their assistance, whether it's resources, support, prayers for the LASD and the 3 deputies who were killed. And we do know that the FBI and ATF are assisting the Sheriff's Department with the investigation. Annabelle?
All right, Adrian, thank you so much for that. We want to get back up to NBC4's Julia Dang. She's live over the scene in News Chopper 4. Julia.
and about more people walking up now, and this is just a sad step forward in the operations on the ground. You can see they've set up a canopy here. It's that black tent in the center of the screen, and this is what they're going to use to cover the bodies, the victims who are still here on the ground, and that's why we're being really careful with the helicopter camera, making sure we don't show you anything graphic. Again, this happened about 4 hours ago now. The victims are still here. They're still piecing together exactly what happened. And what's really interesting, too, on the ground is this backpack, this bag that we noticed earlier right next to the SUV with the blown-out back window. That bag is still here, too. You might have noticed about 15 minutes ago, we were zoomed in really tight on this parking lot, and you could see members of the Sheriff's Department bomb squad going vehicle to vehicle and then crouching down. It looked like they were looking under these SUVs. Unclear what they were checking for, but they were not wearing hard hats or protective gear. So it looks like this scene has now been deemed safe, and more people walking up now, getting these victims covered and then eventually transported. We're live at News Chopper 4. Back to you.
Julia, thank you. Well, this is a breaking news story. We, of course, will keep following it throughout the day on air and online.
And again, Sheriff Robert Luna is expected to hold a news conference in the next 30 minutes. We will, of course, bring that to you live. Stay connected to the latest news with the NBC LA app. See you later.
All right, we're going to take the coverage now from KNBC and, of course, go back whenever they come back on air. As you heard, we're waiting at the top of the hour, hopefully at 3 o'clock, to get an update from the L.A. Sheriff's Department. We'll wait for that, obviously, but a very serious situation. Hearing how methodical it was as officers and federal agents worked in tandem to try and find if any other explosives or any other dangerous situations might be potentially found, and catching some of these deputies by surprise. So we will, of course, update situations, but let's just to run over the nuts and bolts of what just happened over the last couple of hours. Again, 3 deputies were killed. We do not have any IDs on that, of course. I'm sure they're doing their due diligence to let the families know, give them some time to obviously sit with the information. Potentially, that's the information we could learn at 3 o'clock. So this happened in East Los Angeles. Yes, James made a beautiful graphic for us, as you can see. Again, not identified. Thank you, Carlene. And we are awaiting that update. But the incident was reported at 7:30 this morning. They have local, state, national law enforcement leaders who are on scene right now. And as I said earlier, there are some federal officials already in the area because of the ICE activity. So I would be sure that it was a very quick answer to the call after they heard this situation kind of blow up. So yes, what we know is that and the FBI has started their investigation into the explosion. The priority right now, though, is to notify the families, as I said, of the 3 deputies killed in this incident. So LA County officials, they wanted to let the public know that what happened, of course, to prevent similar incidents in the future, which is, one of their leading priorities in this. They want to get the facts. Also to update, Christy Nome says that DHS is working with law enforcement following this East LA explosion. So there's a lot of collaboration going on between federal and local authorities on the ground. Look like even LA County supervisors are also there, and I'm sure at some point we'll hear from Mayor Karen Bass at some point. But a lot of heartbreak for a lot of folks out in LA County and really across the nation, obviously, seeing this story and feeling for the families of these 3 law enforcement officers who died today. So we did, unfortunately, play the wrong weather forecast earlier for you, although it did tell you about our weather alert, which we're going to get more information on right now with Becca Birdsall.
Good Friday afternoon. We are weather alert this afternoon and evening as actual high temperatures will be climbing to the middle to upper 90s, but it's going to be those feels like temperatures that start to get into that danger zone. They're going to be peaking at 105 for today, and we will be feeling the heat throughout the weekend. Heat advisories are in place in all counties shaded in orange. This goes from 2 p.m. through 8 o'clock, but all of us will be under some sort of heat impact as we head throughout this weekend. Most of us under under that major range, meaning dangerous heat will likely be an issue. Futurecast showing the chance for a couple of showers and thunderstorms expected for today, with that main coverage going to be north of this yellow line that is north basically of I-40, including the mountains, foothills, and northern Piedmont area. 4-day forecast, well, high temperatures, they're going to stay right where they are for today. Middle to upper 90s is what we'll do, with a slight temperature is closer near average as we head throughout early next week. High temperatures today in middle to upper 90s. That's going to mark the 12th consecutive afternoon with high temperatures 90 degrees or above, and we've got several more to add on that heat streak. So for today, big story will be the heat advisory in place across much of the area. Few thunderstorms in the forecast. Major heat will continue to build this weekend, also with the chance of a couple of thunderstorms, and eventually starting to cool down as we head into the next week ahead. So heat advisory, that is going to be for those heat index values getting up to around 105. Even this evening, it will remain hot. So Friday and the weekend, basically from 1 p.m. through about 6 o'clock, make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you do have any outdoor activities, stay cool and take frequent breaks in the shade. Dew points, well, they're going to remain in the uncomfortable zone, upper 60s to the lower to middle 70s. A good measure of dew points is the higher the dew point, the more uncomfortable it feels outside. So that means the peak heat index value will be close to 105 today and tomorrow, still around 104 by the time we get into your Sunday, eventually starting to cool down as we head again towards the start of early next week. It's been a humid summer. In fact, we are on the way for number 4. This is a measure of hours with the dew point 70 degrees or above. And like I mentioned, the higher the dew point in the lower to middle 70s, that means the more uncomfortable it feels in terms of heat index. So we're currently at number 4, tied with 1994 for 470 hours. The number 1 spot was 7 years ago, 595 back in 2018. Still have the second half of summer to get through. Futurecast showing that coverage of showers and thunderstorms for today. Locally heavy downpours, as well as frequent lightning and gusty winds, all going to be possibilities. By the time we get to Friday night, you can see those rain chances fizzle out. Then by Saturday at midday all the way through about midnight, hit or miss showers or thunderstorms, maybe a better coverage expected up towards portions of the metro. Then as we fast forward into Sunday, guess what? We'll do it all again with only about a 20% chance of a shower. So how much rainfall we're expecting going to be pretty dependent on where the heaviest rain starts to fall, especially up towards the high country. That's where we'll have a better chance to see anywhere from about a quarter to upwards of an inch, with the potential for some localized flooding, especially north of the metro where the soils are most saturated. Weather alert for today in the 7-day forecast, pretty much from now all the way through this weekend. That is going to be for the heat. Actual high temperatures, upper 90s, but of course feeling closer to 105 across the area. Temperatures start to cool down as we head into Monday and Tuesday, closer to average in the lower 90s, with still daily storm chances in the forecast.
All right, everyone. So I'm not going to really see the chance for storms pop up a little bit more until we get into next week a little bit farther. So we're going to have to deal with this heat and humidity. Stay weather alert if you can. Download the WCNC mobile app. You can get an updated forecast from our team of meteorologists throughout the day as well. And if and when storms do hit, you can see where they're at and where you should need to go. Let's go to a previously recorded welcome ceremony from Secretary Pete Hegseth welcoming Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz to the Pentagon. He was just appointed, so this is customary for this to happen. Let's go to this now.
Just earlier this week, starting to feel very comfortable. That's right, as it should. So welcome. And on behalf of our team, we want to congratulate you on the incredibly successful Rising Lion and 12-day war that changed the region and the world, and was an example of why Israel is a model ally, as understands the threat, is capable, and will act in defense of your own country, but also recognizing the collective security threats that we face. So I want to commend, the chairman and I, all of us had a chance to watch in real time what you are capable of, and we're grateful. And then, of course, our portion in Operation Midnight Hammer, which demonstrated the capabilities of the United States military. And, of course, those 3 nuclear sites in Iran which were obliterated in case our press can't figure that out, which they seem to not be able to do. And the more we report and the more we see, the more we understand how devastating those attacks were on all 3 of those nuclear sites. But it was not just a message to those nuclear sites, but also to the rest of the world of America can fly 37 hours undetected into a hostile nation, deliver decisive, precise munitions that only the United States of America is capable of employing, and then go home safely. That's a message to the world, and we did ultimately what you did and what we did remade the region, created incredible opportunities. We believe eventually, should Iran make the choice, for peace. That's ultimately the hope of your country and the hope of ours. So we stand firmly with Israel, committed to reinforcing your right to self-defense. And whether it's new capabilities, that defense, or a lasting peace, we look forward to working together even more. So, Mr. Minister, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your kind hospitality. I would like to express just how much I'm impressed with Operation Midnight Hammer. It was a brave and historic decision by President Trump. Together, we destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. We destroyed the Iranian nuclear program.
You can say that a third time for the press if you want.
I tell it for everyone. It's very clear. We targeted enrichment sites, nuclear scientists, and other targets related to the nuclear program. We also destroyed Iran's missile production capability. Our joint goal is to keep our achievements, stopping Iran from building its nuclear program and mass production of missiles. We have a very close partnership, and we will continue to strengthen it in the fields of missile defense and drones. I would like to thank you again for playing a key role in the partnership and friendship between the United States and Israel. Your hospitality during my visit here is an example of it. Thank you very much to you, to the President, and to all that did the great common operation, and first of all for, as I said, for President Trump, for the brave and historical decision. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thank you very much. Look forward to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the press. Thank you, members. Thank you, members of the press. Thank you. Thank you, members of the press. Thank you.
All right, a standard procedure, as I said, with new delegations from different countries, especially ones we have very close ties with, like Israel, and of course, the many ongoing situations that seem to be going on in the Middle East. Now, we do want to go to Tom Homan, the border czar, who spoke to reporters today about a possible solution. I'm sure you've heard about alligator Alcatraz in Florida. It's been in the news a lot lately. But apparently there's a lack of beds for detained migrants. There have been a lot of questions about that, including reopening Alcatraz, which we just saw Pam Bondi at yesterday, I do believe. So let's get more from him. It won't be very long, so we'll be back with you once this is done.
I'd have to see how many beds come out of that number, and what's the length of stay that facility is going to do. We got short-term bed facilities, we got long-term bed facilities. So unless I have that information, I can't even give you a guess.
Would you rather see
other states do things like Alligator, Alcatraz instead of this big?
I know the secretary is working with other states to do that, to bring on beds quickly that meet our detention standards. Look, I think states have a responsibility too. What the Biden administration did for 4 years, releasing all these people into the country not properly vetted, becomes a state problem. Look, all the traffic you saw in the last 4 years coming through Texas, 97% of it didn't stay in Texas and went all over the country. So states have responsibility. States have felt the effect in crime and exhaustion of their social services. So states have a big share of this too. I'm happy that states are stepping up. Look, there's discussions going on. I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that. But I will say this, because I've read a lot of news stories that are inaccurate. There will be no amnesty. There are people talking about, we talk about policies every day, strategies every day. That is one of the discussions. Not getting ahead of the president, we'll see what happens. This ridiculousness is over. You put a hand on an ICE officer, you're going to prison. You impede an ICE officer, you're going to be prosecuted.
When are you going to start?
If you're knowing and concealing an illegal alien, you're going to go to jail. If you throw a stone at an ICE vehicle or an officer, those days are over. They're going to get out of the car, they're going to arrest you. President Trump made that clear the other day. I talked to President Trump about that. Within 15 minutes, he put a tweet out. So the ICE officers know, zero tolerance. Border Patrol knows, zero tolerance.
All right, that is the comments there from Border Czar Tom Homan. Hopefully, we'll get more updates on Alligator, Alcatraz, and Alcatraz in California at some point. But a lot of folks talking about the price tag for that to get it back up and running. $200+ million, I do believe, to get the facility back to where it needs to be. So we'll see what the federal government does. We do know tomorrow marks 2 years since Alicia Watts was reported missing. Since last week, our Jesse Pierre has been on this story, talking to family members, friends, which is who we have for you in just a second here, even her pastor earlier today. So thankfully these folks, and we have to say thank you to them because they've allowed us to take their time during a very painful situation that still does not have a conclusion yet, to dig up, I'm sure, some very profound and hard memories, especially around Alicia Watts and this, especially an anniversary, right? If you have family members that have unfortunately passed away, it's very hard to kind of go to those anniversaries and to think about that. And thankfully, we've gotten the perspective from those family and friends. So Jesse fielding another interview today. This is new. She was speaking to a friend I do believe that she worked with, right, Carlene? So we'll go to this now and get her perspective.
This week, today marks the last time she was seen alive, and then later in the week, the first time she was reported missing by her family 2 years ago. When you're thinking about that, here we are marking and coming to 2 years. What goes through your mind? What are your thoughts and feelings? Here we are 2 years later.
Yes, it's still shock, disbelief. The time elapses, and you wonder, has it really been 2 years? But it's still very fresh. And one of the reasons it's very fresh is because it's something that, you don't just think about it once a week or bi-weekly or bi-monthly. It's something you think about every day. But when you get to this time of the year, you're thinking about it multiple times in a day and in the night.
Can you bring me back to the time of learning of her missing, and what were the hardest moments during that time frame?
It was just challenging not knowing, because we're so programmed to know. You want to know everything. You want answers. And then there's the spiritual aspect of this. We prayed, we fasted, we sought the Lord, we did all we could to help the authorities. And there was such an extended period of quiet, no news, no nothing. I did everything that I physically could do. I prayed. I asked the Lord. I did, and it's something you never get over. It still stirs my emotions to this day because you feel hopeless and helpless because you want to do something you have nothing to do because you don't know where to go, where she was, and that, I think that time frame is, it's life changing, because you never forget it, and it's the what ifs, and you try to rewind time, and you can't, because it's already happened, and so it's just something that you have to live with, and it's not easy, but it's possible by the help and strength of the Lord.
And what went through your mind when you found out James Dunmore, the man she was seeing, was arrested for her murder?
There is a small sense of relief, because you don't want anyone who has committed such an egregious crime of this nature to get or to go free. But then there's anger, because we don't have answers as to why. And even as this drags on, it's still anger, because it's what's taken so long, and there's a little bit of anxiety to it, because you don't want time to work against you, and he get off on a lesser charge, or he's not prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So it brings up a plethora of emotions. But I'm grateful that he's in custody, and that he has remained in custody. I do understand, and I fully support that in this country you're innocent until proven guilty, and we are waiting patiently to have Alicia's day in court.
I was going to ask this, if you felt like justice was moving at a pace that it should.
Yeah, that's when you're on the victim side of it, I don't think justice ever moves as swiftly as you want it to move, and at the end of the day, I'm bracing myself, trying to brace the members and family and loved ones of Alicia, because even if and when justice comes, it still doesn't bring Alicia back, and you get some sort of closure that this part of it will be done, but it'll never close the hole that Alicia's death has left in our lives and our hearts, and so.
This case had so many twists and turns, from him being found,
Hey guys, I don't want to interrupt this too much, but we are watching, as you can see, this press conference, we do believe, on the explosion in East LA will get started here momentarily. So we're going to pitch to it as soon as possible when somebody comes to the mic. And we're also watching President Trump potentially signing the Genius Act, dealing with the first federal bill establishing a regulatory framework for stable coins and cryptocurrency. So we'll get to this. Let's go to this now as it is happening.
As we go on. Very busy, as you can imagine, over the last several hours. I'll be the only one speaking today, and I'll be answering your questions after I speak. But if you look around me, the team that I have, that I'm surrounded by, members of the board, my partner, Jim McDonald from the LAPD, Tony Maroney from LA County Fire, CHP. I could go on, and I'll talk about some of that as we go on. So it is somewhat of a beautiful day today weather-wise, but there's definitely a black cloud hanging over the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and our county family. This morning, shortly after 7:30 a.m., an explosion occurred at our Special Enforcement Bureau, arson explosives detail facility located in the 1000 block of Northeastern Avenue in East Los Angeles, which is right behind this hill. Tragically, there were 3 sworn members who were fatally killed that were assigned to our arson explosives detail. No other department members were injured or transported to any hospitals. This is, unfortunately, the largest loss of life for us as the LA County Sheriff's Department since 1857. Between all 3 sworn members, they had served our community proudly for 74 years, and that's amongst all 3 of them collectively. 19 years, 22 years, and 33 years. And at this point, we are not giving out their names. One of the reasons it took me a while to get out here, one of my priorities is the families of our deputies. And I've met with several of them this morning. There are still others who are on their way. There are others who have not been notified. The last thing I want to do is them to turn on the news and find out that way. So thank you for respecting that at this point. My second priority were our employees. Our employees are hurting right now. Members of our Special Enforcement Bureau, other members of our arson detail as well, arson explosives detail. In regards to the details of what happened, I'm going to give you what I have right now. There's a lot more that we don't know than what we do know. But our intent is to look at this from the very beginning and figure out what is it exactly that caused this tragic event. Currently, our homicide detectives are on scene, and they are investigating the deaths that are we are being assisted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who are investigating the post-blast portion of this incident. You have seen other vehicles other than FBI. You've seen the ATF here. They will be assisting the FBI as well. I am very grateful to the bomb squad of the Los Angeles Police Department. And I mentioned Chief Jim McDonald standing behind me here. They immediately came out to assist after this explosion occurred to render the devices safe. And just so all of you know, they were just rendered safe within the last minutes, right before we walked out here. So it was still an active scene. It wasn't stable, and definitely a very active crime scene as we go forward. At this time, we do not know the cause of the explosion. However, this specific area has been closed off due to the ongoing investigation. We believe there is no threat to this community. Actually, I could tell you there is no threat to this community. This is an isolated incident. And again, no threats. We have road closures, Eastern Boulevard between Blatchard Street and Lotta Drive. And again, I do want to thank all of our local partners, our local elected officials that are here to help us get through this very difficult time. We have our Psychological Services Bureau personnel on scene that are assisting our employees at this moment, along with peer counseling and chaplain services. And as I said earlier, I have met with 2 of the 3 families thus far. And as you can imagine, those were extremely challenging conversations. So anyways, ready for questions. Those are all good questions that Pete just asked. Now that the investigation has started, now that the investigators can actually get in to the scene that it was just rendered safe, we will be able to answer all those questions. Too early right now to be able to answer that.
Were there other military style or military grade explosives nearby that were rendered safe by the LA?
We will know that hopefully in the next couple of hours.
Sir, were they moving these explosives from one place to another? Were they investigating existing explosives already in the facility? And what were they doing?
All these questions are really good questions, and they're the questions that we have as well. The investigation is just about to get started on all this, and these are all the questions that we're going to want answers to, and we'll get them. But simply, right now, I wanted to get out here. I know all of you had been waiting for a while. I'm giving you the information I have, and we're not there yet. Thank you.
Can you say something in Spanish for us, please?
Let's wait for the English, and then we'll do the Spanish afterward, if that's okay.
Sure, are you able to say we heard that someone was injured as well and taken to the hospital. Are you able to say the status of that person?
Earlier, we had 3 fatalities of our employees, which I call heroes, are very heroic in the work that they do. We had no other injuries other than the 3 fatalities. And just so all of you know, the members of this team I've heard over and over the word elite being used. I think sometimes that term gets overused. But if you're familiar with our Special Enforcement Bureau, they're the best of the best. And the individuals who work our arson explosives detail, they have years of training. And these members, usually the average calls that they go to in dealing with some very dangerous situations or items average about 1,100 per year. So these aren't people who don't do this very often. They are fantastic experts. And unfortunately, I lost 3 of them today.
Sheriff, regarding what happened here, why were you carrying one man? It's not the limit that they were almost don't know what you were thinking. Why was it not done out there?
Those are all questions, Pete, that we're going to get to. We need to go from A to Z to know exactly what happened. That's why we have our partners here from the Federal Bureau of Investigation that will be conducting the post-blast. There'll be a lot of details coming out there eventually. ATF is here to assist them, the National Response Team. These are individuals that have a lot of expertise in what they do. And again, all the questions being asked, very good questions. But if I waited to get the answers to those, I'd be here probably in 2 days. And I'm just trying to get out here in front of all of you. The question is, are we anticipating a procession for our 3 heroic deputies who passed away? And the answer to that is yes. There will be a procession. I don't have any specific information on that. But it'll happen in the next several hours.
Sheriff, we understand that you're still gathering information, but perhaps because of the nature of what we're dealing with involved with everything, can you tell us a little bit about the vehicle that you're driving, or anything at all that you did, any kind of preliminary indication, because as you have said, you guys know what they're doing, and there is 7%. So this seems to be something completely out of order. Is there anything?
I don't have the answers to those questions yet. And again, getting out here, trying to be out here at this time to inform all of you, our community, to know what we know at this time was very important. Again, all of you are amazing. You're asking very important questions, and we're going to get the answers, I think, to, if not everything, to most of them. But we just simply don't have that information at this time. There is currently an investigation going on to determine what happened from the very beginning to the end. I know everybody wants answers. Please understand, we just rendered the scene safe. Within the last 30 minutes, the LAPD bomb squad rendered the scene safe. We have to go back, investigate what happened from the very beginning, and we'll get there. Just not going to happen this soon. I would be very irresponsible to try and answer a lot of these questions without the information that I need to positively give you facts, and I don't have the facts at this point.
Sheriff, we understand that you're telling us everything you can tell us, and we understand we got to wait. By when, roughly, you feel you can have another press conference to tell us more information?
We'll, through our Sheriff's Information Bureau, we'll put something out in the next couple of hours of when we would have more information. But I'm going to tell you right now, based on my experience, when we're conducting these type of investigations, it doesn't take hours to get some of this information. It takes days and weeks. We do not rush this investigation. We want to make sure that we're extremely thorough. Ladies and gentlemen, we lost 3 lives, and we want to make sure we know what happened. We don't want to repeat for this. And again, all the questions that are being asked are very legitimate. There are other law enforcement agencies who have bomb techs, not only around the country, around the world, that want to know what happened here. So we want to make sure that no one else, we don't repeat this, right? So thorough investigation will be done by multiple agencies, and we'll get back to you about it. It sounds like everything is repeat questions about the incident. I can't answer any of those right now because we don't have those facts yet. So with that, thank you all, and then we'll keep you updated on any progress on anything else. Appreciate each and every one of you. God bless you.
Sheriff Luna being very gentle, obviously, to those reporters, saying he just cannot answer some of those questions that they continue to ask about the incident. He just does not have those questions. And, of course, you could hear him get emotional, understandably so, after having to tell 2 of the 3 families of those law enforcement officers that died today that their loved one is not coming home tonight. That's a hard thing to have to wrestle with. And as you heard him say, his deputies, that's how he looks at it. So all 3 members, they had served the LA County community for 74 years total amongst all 3 of them collectively. We're not exactly sure which 3, but 19 years, 22 years, and then 33 years. So as you can understand, very well-known individuals in their community, obviously had many of the skills necessary to be sheriff deputy. And Sheriff Luna also saying that today marks the largest loss of life for an incident in the sheriff's department since 1857. It's wild they've been keeping records that long, but that's what he said. So again, he said there's no threat to the community. It was an isolated incident, and apparently these deputies were tasked with moving small military-style explosives when this deadly explosion occurred at the East LASD training facility. Deputies believed they were not of great danger at the time of this assignment, and that's according to sources through KNBC. So, again, they are still working to notify that other victim's family. That's why they did not release the names just yet. They're being obviously very understanding of this tragedy that happened on this Friday today. So, but again, an isolated incident is what the sheriff said, Robert Luna. Even while homicide investigators were still at the scene of the blast, apparently, they're making sure that they know exactly what went on, and they don't know a lot about this. Could have been faulty equipment, but he wasn't willing to speculate. So obviously we will not either. We'll get more information, obviously, from LA throughout the next couple of hours, and of course, give you the latest as we hit the news at 4, 5, and 6 over on WCNC. But we're now in the 3 o'clock hour. The president has been speaking. We'll go to this now. This is about the Genius Act, a new federal bill that establishes a regulatory framework for stable coins and really cryptocurrency, which is something that the president has spoken about and obviously been for cryptocurrency in and of itself. So we'll go to this now.
I don't know if Gemini, but they have the whole pack. There are a lot of things actually, but Gemini's just the one for today, right? They've got they've got the look, they've got the genius, got plenty of cash, and it's great that you're on our side. You guys are great. I can never tell them apart, but their mother can. I asked, can your mother tell you apart? And the answer is yes. Easily, or is it tough for her? Easy. Good. You guys have been great. Thank you very much. Great to be with you. Let me say the entire crypto community, for years, you were mocked and dismissed and counted out. You were counted out as little as a year and a half ago. But this signing is a massive validation, and even before this signing, over the last year and a half, I think your stuff has gone up more than any stock, or just about more. A couple of stocks that were pretty good, I will say, but you have certainly, as an industry, gone up more than anybody. Nobody's gained the respect in such a short period of time. But this signing is a massive validation of your hard work and your pioneering spirit and your ability to never give up, because a lot of people would have given up 2-3 years ago. So I want to thank you for contributing to the incredible strength of America. This is going to make it stronger, and congratulations on this incredible achievement. You've made our dollar look really good and strong and powerful. It's good for the dollar, and it's good for the country. And that's why I backed you at an early stage, and I also did it for the votes, because you did come out and vote, I will tell you. And they changed tune, you know, Biden's team, they changed tune right in the middle of the campaign. All of a sudden, they loved you guys. They dropped all charges. They did have, I got you guys out of so much trouble. And you know what? I don't think anybody voted for them, right? Because you remember, they treated you very unfairly, actually. So it's a great honor that we were involved. And it was a tremendous amount of support that we got at the polls. We won. Think of it, we won every swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won the popular vote. We won the districts by 2,000 750. Think of that, to 505. Different districts too, by the way. Every once in a while that number can change, but it doesn't change by much. The map was almost totally red, and you guys were with us right from the beginning. Exactly 1 year ago this month, many of you were with me in Nashville, Tennessee. Do you remember that day, right? That was a big day, Nashville, Tennessee, when we became, and I became, the first presidential candidate ever to address the Bitcoin conference. And at this time and at that time, crypto builders and founders were under relentless assault by the Biden administration, which was trying to crush your industry and crush you as people and go after your families. And they were a vicious group of people. You know, people don't realize it. They were vicious, incompetent, but vicious. Well, Joe was an incompetent guy, but he was always known as a vicious guy. I guess if you're going to be in that, you're probably off, if they're incompetent is better, right? Because you don't want to have a vicious guy that's competent. If you did, I wouldn't be standing here today, right? But I pledged that we would bring back American liberty and leadership and make the United States the crypto capital of the world, and that's what we've done. And under the Trump administration, this is only going further. You're going to do really well. I mean, I'm so proud of what you've done in the last couple of years, and very important. On day one, I remember I did this and I said this and I mentioned this name, and I got the greatest applause of the whole campaign. We fired Joe Biden's SEC chair, Gary Gensler. We fired him. But I remember I was making a speech, and you know, it was just, the place exploded. I said, I finished. I went and I said, "What the hell did that guy do?" There was a lot of hatred there, I'll tell you. And it turned out, as I got familiar with everything, it turned out you were absolutely right. In his place, I appointed a visionary chairman who wants America to build the future and not block the future. He's going to be unbelievable. He'll go down as one of the greats. And Paul Atkins, where are you, Paul Atkins? And you know, Paul, the crypto guys, they said, everybody said, not only crypto, every industry, they all wanted Paul for the position. And he's a tough cookie, too. He's just, but they actually said, we don't care. We just think he's fair. All they wanted was fairness. And they have somebody that you're really a champion of the street and you're a champion of the country. You're going to do a fantastic job. I saw you interviewed the other night. I watched it about 2 o'clock in the morning. There was a little thing called C-SPAN, which I don't know how many people were watching. Don't worry, you were on primetime too, but they happen to have a little rerun. I don't want to embarrass you. But fantastic job, really. You are absolutely so perfect for the job. Congratulations, Paul. And Paul is here today among the commissioners, various commissioners, including Hester Pierce and Mark Yoida. Hester and Mark Yoida. Thank you, Hester. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mark, wherever you may be. Is Mark here? Oh, stand up, Mark. I didn't. Good. Thank you. Good job. Good. I'm glad I gave you a second crack you didn't hear because of the thunderous applause for Hester. But thank you. I heard tremendous things about both of you. Thank you very much. My first week in office, I also established the first ever presidential working group on digital assets, and we have an executive director. Where's Bo Hines? Bo Hines. Hi, Bo. And Bo is a great football player, right? Bo is a great football player, one of the better players in college football. So I know you from that also. See, who would think that I know that? I know a lot of things, Bo. But he was a champion player. I stopped the weaponization of government against crypto and Bitcoin, and we ended the lawless operation Choke Point 2.0. That was a bad operation. And I kept my promises to the community and granted a full presidential pardon to Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht. And you have no idea how important that name became. It was like a symbol, and his mother was unbelievable. His mother was an unbelievable woman, but it was so important to a certain group of people. And in the truly momentous act last March, I signed an executive order establishing the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, as well as the United States Digital Asset Stockpile, and that's all signed up. With today's signing, we're pushing even further into the exciting new frontier. Just as I promised last year, the Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stable coins. This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. A lot of people are saying that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Yes? If you say yes, I'm saying yes. I think it's great that you're involved, I will tell you. Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that 2 years after I really met you for the first time? The Genius Act provides banks, businesses, and financial institutions a framework for issuing crypto assets backed one-for-one with real U.S. dollars, treasury bills, and other cash equivalents. It's really strengthening the dollar and giving the dollar great prominence. And, you know, you have this little group called BRICS. It's fading out fast. But BRICS is, they wanted to try and take over the dollar, the dominance of the dollar and the standard of the dollar. And I said, anybody that's in the BRICS consortium of nations, we're going to tariff you 10%. And they had a meeting the following day, and almost nobody showed up. They said, leave me alone. We didn't want to, they didn't want to be tariffed, did they, Howard? So it's amazing. No, we're not going to let the dollar slide. If we have a smart president, you're never going to let the dollar slide. If you have a dummy, that could happen. Like the last one, he would, if you ever asked him about the dollar sliding, he would have no idea. But we can't let that ever happen again. Consumers, vendors, and people all over the world will then be able to use those stable coins for ultra-low-cost transactions that are cleared and settled in a matter of seconds rather than weeks and months. And it's really an amazing thing. And with the privacy, flexibility, and decentralization of cash, this revolution has the potential to supercharge American economic growth and empower billions of people to save and transfer in U.S. dollars. It's really all backed by the dollars. It's really a great thing. And a lot of, you know, we had a lot of Democrat support. I have to tell you that. I was shocked anytime you get one but we had a tremendous amount of Democrat support, which we appreciate, and which just shows you that you're doing the right thing. This will increase demand for U.S. Treasuries, lower interest rates, and secure the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency for generations to come. The reserve currency is so important. You know, if we lost that, that would be like losing a world war. We can never let anyone play games with us, and that's why when I heard about this group from BRICS, 6 countries basically, I hit them very, very hard. And if they ever really form in a meaningful way, it will end very quickly, I will tell you, for them. They won't be gone very long. I don't think they'll even do it. They're virtually afraid to meet. I also remain fully committed to my pledge never to allow the creation of a central bank digital currency in America. It won't happen. My first. Thank you. And the other night, I will say, with some of the congressmen and women, they wanted that so badly. That was so important to them. You know, I was impressed that they knew what the hell it was, to be honest with you. Please, sir, please, the central bank digital currency, well, you have to make sure, sir. And I'm saying, what do you know about that? It's amazing the knowledge that people have gained all of a sudden. We had a lot of problems with some of them. I said, we've already got it from the Fed, right, from Commerce, and from an executive order. You don't need it a fourth time. Sir, we have to get it. It's amazing. But they knew their subject, though, didn't they, huh? And we helped them out. My first week in office, I signed an executive order to ban the creation of a CBDC in the United States, and very soon I look forward to signing legislation that will codify and ban make it a permanent law, put it in permanence. I'm also committed to signing landmark crypto market structure legislation this year to grow the industry. We're going to be growing it even more than people ever thought. It's a really hot industry. And for a little while, 2 nights ago, we were a little concerned because we were a little short on votes. Like, I would say maybe we were about 9 short. 9 short at 3 in the morning. We were about 4 short at 3:30 in the morning. And we were in good shape at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? But the people, and few people have fought harder for the bill than we're signing than some of the people here today. You have been unbelievable. It's our White House AI and crypto czar, David Sachs, who has done such a great job. And he has a show now. I've become a showman, but a couple of years ago, right? It's probably 2 years ago now in San Francisco, and I did his show. And I heard he's a very smart guy, and we had a great show. You've kept it going a lot longer, and is that still your highest rated ever show? Oh, he knows what to say. He knows what. He had a rating that he had millions and millions of people. He said, "What's going on?" But we had a great show, and I said, that guy's really smart. I said, if I get elected, I was running at that time. If I get elected, we're going to bring him into government in some ways. He's worth a fortune. He's made a lot of money. He's a very rich billionaire. But this is more important, isn't it? This is me too. It's like, doesn't matter. This is much. I know Howard and I talk about it all the time. Howard could go back to his wonderful brokerage firm, hire 1 or 2 people, and it's not the same as. It's not the same as what you're doing, right? We're doing the biggest deals in the world. Actually, the deal we're doing now in tariffs is the biggest, when you add it up, the biggest deal ever made in history. It could be 1,000 IBMs. I mean, if you think of it, it's the biggest deal ever done. So it's hard to go back to a brokerage firm and, make $79,000 commission on the sale of a sock, right? It's true. But I want to ask David. So David's been fantastic. He's done an incredible job. And I'd like to ask David to come up, say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you, President Trump. It's a great honor to be here, and it's true that I'd never expected to work in government at all, and then everything changed after President Trump came on my podcast, and I accepted this job as crypto czar because I thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work for a president who really wants to get things done for the American people, and if anything, that's been an understatement. The first 6 months of this administration have been more successful than any administration in American history. What's been done? It's just been incredible. President Trump has worked at tech speed. We're used to working fast in Silicon Valley, but even this is fast for us in Silicon Valley, the speed at which you move, President Trump. It's really incredible. And now today, you have another historic legislative achievement that is a monumental step to fulfilling your promise to making the United States the crypto capital of the world. This Genius Act will unlock American dominance in the crypto industry by creating clear rules of the road. It will update archaic payment rails with a revolutionary new payment system, and it will extend U.S. dollar dominance, like you said, globally, by creating a digital dollar that people all over the world can use. And for every digital dollar in a crypto wallet, there'll be a traditional dollar in a U.S. bank account, which will create trillions of dollars of demand for U.S. treasuries. So that is the power of this bill, is U.S. dollar dominance. This is a huge promise made and promise kept by President Trump. And there's just a few other people I'd like to thank. First, my family for being here. Thank you. And Bo Hines, who President Trump mentions, the director of our crypto council, he really did the heavy lifting here. So Bo, I just want to thank you again. And my chief of staff, Tracy Johnson, as well, who also does the heavy lifting. And Bill Haggerty and French Hill and all the congressmen and senators who have already been mentioned by President Trump, so I'll save the time, but it was really been an honor to work with all of you. This was really a team effort, but most of all, I want to thank President Trump for accomplishing what nobody thought was possible, and it's true that just earlier this week, the media was reporting that this bill was dead. This bill was dead, and then the media didn't know one thing, that we had a secret weapon. We have a chief. And thanks to President Trump, he stepped in and saved this bill. And it's because of your vision, your leadership, your determination, your skill that we're all here today. So thank you very much, President Trump.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that Laura? Please come. Just come here. This is our superstar. She was the head of the Republican Party, and nobody complained about anything. We went on to great. This is Laura Trump, married to a young gentleman named Eric. They have beautiful 2 children, but she has been so good. She stepped into that position like it was nothing that we won, and she said, Dad, I'd like to go home right now to my beautiful husband and my son and daughter, right? But you did a fantastic job, and you worked with a great gentleman, too. He's doing a fantastic job. But I just want to thank you. I just saw you standing back there. I wanted to bring her in. Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you. So under the Trump administration, I mean, I just got back from Saudi Arabia, and we went to Qatar. We went to a number of countries, and I will tell you the level of respect that this country has now is incredible. The UAE, I tell you what, we had a time there, but every leader said the same thing. They said 1 year ago, your country was dead. And they'd say it that way. It was like, you know, I didn't know whether I was supposed to be happy or insulted, but the truth is we were in deep trouble. But they said 1 year ago, your country was dead. And today you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And it's true. We have the hottest country in the world. We had a country, we were a laughingstock with the borders, people pouring in. Can you imagine last month, in the month of June, actually, 0, now I don't even believe that, 0, because you have hundreds of thousands pouring in, and then all of a sudden it's 0. But they have it down as 0. And very liberal people take that particular toll. It's a liberal group. So they're not giving us any favors. It's 0 people coming through our border. Can you imagine that? From literally hundreds of thousands and millions pouring in from all over the world. They came from all over the world. They came from prisons, jails. They came from mental institutions, gang members. There were gangs. They came from all over the place, from every country. They came from the Congo in Africa, a lot from the Congo. They came from South America. A lot of came from Venezuela. They emptied their jails into our country. Can you imagine? They allowed that, emptied their jails into our country, and they let them walk right into our country like perfect. 11,888 committed murder. 50% committed more than one person. They murdered more than one person. 50% of 11,888. And we had murderers, and we're getting them out, and Tom Homan and Christie are doing a great job. That Tom Homan, I'll tell you, is he central casting or what? And he takes abuse, but they just keep fighting, and they're winning, and we're winning in the courts, and we're winning everywhere. But we've got the hottest country in the world, and you're a big part of it. So the golden age of America is upon us, and with today's signing, the future of crypto and the crypto industry, the U.S. dollar working together, because they really are hand in hand, is going to be stronger and bigger and better than ever before. And I just want to thank everybody, some tremendous people in this room. And maybe when I sign, I'll ask some of our great senators and congressmen to come on up. Some of the top crypto guys, please come on up, because you guys worked very hard at this. And we'll sign this, and we'll get on to the next battle, and we'll win. But we're winning all over the world right now. It's not even close, not even close, and we're going to keep it going. Thank you, everybody, very much. Thank you.
Hello, fellas. Can you sit down, please? Thank you so much.
Sit down.
When?
Down.
Sir.
You got it?
Can you sit down? Thank you so much.
This is not an auto pen, by the way. Which is a big scandal. If that were a Republican, it would really be a big scandal. But it is one of the great scandals of our time. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, so the president signing the Genius Act again that establishes this regulatory framework for not just stablecoins, which is a type of cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency as a whole, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, those type of things, designed to maintain a stable value, typically pegged to a certain currency, which would be the US dollar. So it aims to provide clarity and really structure for the entire market. They want to have more innovation, and they want to ensure that the consumers are protected, and really it's also for national security interests. So if you do have any cryptocurrency investments, this is a good day for you. So we'll get more on this Genius Act throughout the next couple of hours once we're able to flesh this out. But we do want to go to an update on our forecast. James Brierton is here. And James, at this moment, we're looking at the radar. Can you tell us about some of the storms we're seeing to the north of Charlotte?
Yeah, it's like rinse and repeat around here, Colin. Right. We're watching a few areas of rain, some heavy, some with lightning and thunder, especially as you get closer to the Virginia border. So some in the North Carolina high country right now, seeing some of those stationary storms continuing to train over the same location. We're watching once again for our friends off to the east in Greensboro and Raleigh, who have the largest storm threat today. And we'll keep a close eye on our WCNC weather impact Doppler radar as we go through the afternoon. But we know our Becker Birdsall had this forecast update too, reminding all of us to stay weather alert. Here's why.
Good Friday afternoon. We are weather alert this afternoon and evening as actual high temperatures will be climbing to the middle to upper 90s, but it's going to be those feels like temperatures that start to get into that danger zone. They're going to be peaking at 105 for today, and we will be feeling the heat throughout the weekend. Heat advisories are in place in all counties shaded in orange. This goes from 2 p.m. through 8 o'clock, but all of us will be under some sort of heat impact as we head throughout this weekend. Most of us under that major range, meaning dangerous heat will likely be an issue. Futurecast showing the chance for a couple of showers and thunderstorms expected for today, with that main coverage going to be north of this yellow line that is north basically of I-40, including the mountains, foothills, and northern Piedmont area. 4-day forecast, well, high temperatures, they're going to stay right where they are for today. Middle to upper 90s is what we'll do, with a slight temperature is closer near average as we head throughout early next week. High temperatures today in middle to upper 90s. That's going to mark the 12th consecutive afternoon with high temperatures 90 degrees or above, and we've got several more to add on that heat streak. So for today, big story will be the heat advisory in place across much of the area. Few thunderstorms in the forecast. Major heat will continue to build this weekend, also with the chance of a couple of thunderstorms, and eventually starting to cool down as we head into the next week ahead. So heat advisory, that is going to be for those heat index values getting up to around 105. Even this evening, it will remain hot. So Friday and the weekend, basically from 1 p.m. through about 6 o'clock, make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you do have any outdoor activities, stay cool and take frequent breaks in the shade. Dew points, well, they're going to remain in the uncomfortable zone, upper 60s to the lower to middle 70s. A good measure of dew points is the higher the dew point, the more uncomfortable it feels outside. So that means the peak heat index value will be close to 105 today and tomorrow, still around 104 by the time we get into your Sunday, eventually starting to cool down as we head again towards the start of early next week. It's been a humid summer. In fact, we are on the way for number 4. This is a measure of hours with the dew point 70 degrees or above. And like I mentioned, the higher the dew point in the lower to middle 70s, that means the more uncomfortable it feels in terms of heat index. So we're currently at number 4, tied with 1994 for 406 70 hours. The #1 spot was 7 years ago, 595 back in 2018. Still have the second half of summer to get through. Futurecast showing that coverage of showers and thunderstorms for today. Locally heavy downpours, as well as frequent lightning and gusty winds, all going to be possibilities. By the time we get to Friday night, you can see those rain chances fizzle out. Then by Saturday midday all the way through about midnight, hit or miss showers or thunderstorms, maybe a better coverage expected up towards portions of the metro. Then as we fast forward into Sunday, guess what? We'll do it all again with only about a 20% chance of a shower. So how much rainfall we're expecting going to be pretty dependent on where the heaviest rain starts to fall, especially up towards the high country. That's where we'll have a better chance to see anywhere from about a quarter to upwards of an inch, with the potential for some localized flooding, especially north of the metro where the soils are most saturated. Weather alert for today in the 7-day forecast, pretty much from now all the way through this weekend. That is going to be for the heat. Actual high temperatures, upper 90s, but of course feeling closer to 105 across the area. Temperatures start to cool down as we head into Monday and Tuesday, closer to average in the lower 90s, with still daily storm chances in the forecast.
Yeah, I'd take average today for sure, and for Saturday as well. I'm sure a lot of folks would also, but thankfully this little heat wave that we're having won't stick around, unlike what we saw about a month ago at the end of July with heat indices closer to 110. We are following, or I should say Nate Morabito is following, our amazing investigative reporter who's been a lead on this story that's happening in Monroe with plans for a grave relocation. And really, we're just learning that family members of these individuals who will have these graves relocated are really just finding out about this. Our Jane Monreal had Nate on WCNC Plus inside the Impact studio to explain a little bit more about Monroe City Council's unanimously decision that surrounds really the Billy Woods Cemetery relocation proposal. So we'll talk more about this and listen in right now.
On WCNC Plus, just after 10 a.m. on a Friday morning. I'm Jane Monreal. Thank you for sticking with us here as we bring you the latest streaming news as it comes and some of the important stories affecting our community. As we want to talk right now about Monroe, where the community there is grappling with a difficult decision. The city planning to relocate an entire historic cemetery to make way for new economic development. Our Nate Morabito looking into this story. And Nate, this is quite a shock for a lot of families involved, huh?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've ever covered a story like this. Like, you know, in your reporting career, you might come across a situation where there's an old crime and they're going to exhume a body. I've never really heard how common it is to uproot an older, in this case, family cemetery and move them to a new cemetery, but that's the case. And I'll tell you, I started putting some of this on social media yesterday, and it's really kind of gone wild. About 19,000 people on TikTok alone have seen hundreds of comments. Everybody has an opinion, and I honestly can see both sides of this thing. And you know, I think I'm curious mostly to hear what other people think too, because this has already been approved, but the city of Monroe wants to hear people's feedback, and so this is the perfect opportunity right now to tell people what's going on there.
All right, let's go and play this story. It aired last night on WCNC Charlotte.
Off limits to the public. This may just look like another piece of land in an industrial area the city of Monroe is marketing for economic development. But down a dirt road sits the final resting place.
So we are walking into the Billy Woods Cemetery
Of several families.
There are quite a bit of footstones that are still intact.
Assistant City Manager Jeff Wells says even though the city bought the land in 2018, current Monroe leaders didn't realize the cemetery existed until this past winter.
We weren't aware of it.
He told us the city only discovered the burial ground as crews evaluated the land for potential development. Wells says that's when the city launched a historical investigation and learned over almost 200 years.
This whole area used to be just a field.
Grazing cattle and new trees likely damaged many of the monuments in the abandoned cemetery. The discovery led them to clean up the overgrowth and move forward with relocating the graves, allowed by state law as long as, among other things, Monroe gave 30 days written notice to next of kin. The city identified 170 descendants and sent them letters. Only 15 responded. Just one expressed opposition, but several others didn't get any notice.
This is my 5th great-grandfather.
August Troll is one of those people.
The fact that they're already making a plan to relocate it and kind of take this away from us after we just got it back feels very upsetting.
Troll found out about Monroe's plan to relocate the Billywood Cemetery almost a month after city council members,
all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand,
had already unanimously approved it, and just weeks before it's set to occur.
I haven't even really been given a lot of time to process those emotions.
Clearly you haven't reached out to everyone. Maybe you didn't know there were more people out there. Can you understand why some people would be disappointed they haven't heard from the city yet?
We certainly can understand that.
Wells says leaders want to hear from everyone and are even willing to bring them here to pay their respects.
The city is doing everything they can to be sensitive to the situation.
Wells says one of the ways the city is working to respect the dignity of those buried here is ensuring the way this cemetery is laid out is identical at the new location, here at the city-owned Suncrest Cemetery.
They'll be able to be relocated somewhere with perpetual care. I think that's the most important point.
This one is really interesting.
Troll can see some of the benefits, but struggles giving it a blessing.
I would rather it stay where it is.
Since some relatives weren't included from the start.
I at least want us to have a conversation about it.
Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, so Nate, talk us through how this story was discovered and what the city process then is about acquiring property.
Yeah, I mean, so I was basically tipped off that this was happening and was already in motion, and at this point, no one else has covered this from the news media. So I knew at the least the public should be made aware of this from a journalist side, because they did hold a public hearing, as is required. The city of Monroe did. Very few people have spoken publicly about this. There was a meeting earlier this month where someone spoke out against it. At the June meeting where this was approved, a woman who has ancestors buried there shared kind of some concerns about both. It was emotional to know that the family's remains would be disturbed, but also understanding that the city is trying to work with them. They're going to allow a pastor to be there for the relocation and the reinterment. At the new cemetery, they're going to do their best to preserve the monuments and reuse them when possible. The ones that are broken are going to go in the ground in a box with the remains. As you heard me say, the cemetery is going to be laid out exactly the same. Understanding familial relationships, maybe a husband and wife were buried next to each other. There's kids at that cemetery, trying to keep the location. Other than that it's not going to be where it is now, at least the layout the same. And, you know, we started asking questions, and even you heard from August there. August has a great grandparent and then a 5th great grandparent there as well as some other relatives. And after we alerted the assistant city manager that August had not been made aware of this, their grandfather had not been made aware of this, their aunt had not been made aware of this, the city started working on communicating and did talk with August, and August feels a little bit better now, at least that there's been some kind of conversations, but doesn't really understand why it's moving so fast, as kind of we pointed out here. You know, it looks like these letters went out around April. There were some efforts in March, April here to kind of get the word out. There was a hearing in June. End of this month, they're going to start moving this. And there are, if you think about it, if there's at least 50 souls in that cemetery, and some date back to 1842, imagine the lineage here. How many people might be out
generations
there that don't know? And the one woman that spoke in June before the city council kind of said that, you know, my great aunts in Florida are concerned about this. You know, we're talking about really far down the line that it's probably difficult to reach everyone, but that's another reason why I wanted to get this story out there, because I feel like anybody who has a relative of any kind buried there has a right to voice their opinion on this matter, and only 15 people responded of the 170 that they mailed letters to.
That is wild. And so this can happen anywhere. It also
in North Carolina, there's a law that allows it. That's what was surprising to me too, that there is a law that allows for cases like this where a city can meet certain requirements and then move grave sites, and people, on social media have just been kind of pointing out all these different locations, both in North Carolina and other parts of the country where this has happened. And I think that what's tricky here is that the city says we couldn't really keep it where it was. It's just not in a position where we can keep it there. And I also think it's unusual that the city bought this in 2018 and then new city management didn't find out about it
Yes.
until 2025.
Why the disconnect?
Yeah, and that's not really an answer that we've been able to get. They knew that the land the city owned, they did not know, they're telling us, that there was a cemetery there. They believe that past city management may have known there was a cemetery there. That information probably should be shared when there's a transition because it's so sensitive. And I totally get there have been people who've gone out there already with the city management team and more that will be going out to visit it. And this stirs up a lot of emotions for people. And some may say, well, these people have been gone forever. What does it matter? Well, imagine if it was your family.
Right.
And this is a time when there probably weren't caskets. So there's just loose human remains in the ground. You don't want to miss anything. And of course, they're going to bring experts in to make sure they don't miss anything with the technology. But while we were there, we also noticed some bones, by the way, and it turns out that the city's now telling us that they were not human bones, but one was in a depression in front of a grave. I'm not an expert, and they kind of, to me, looked like they could have been human bones. There was another set near a tree that, to me, looked more like animal bones, but what do I know, first of all? And I kind of asked them, I said, what do you guys think here? What's going on? And they said, well, it could be human, but we think it's an animal carcass. And they've since confirmed that their anthropologist has determined that they were not human. But think about all the years that have passed, all the animals that have gone through there, the trees that have grown up. I mean, it's just not an ideal situation. And I should also point out that the families knew this cemetery existed. They didn't know where it was. So people will say, well, why weren't they visiting this cemetery all along? They all of a sudden care now. Well, they didn't know where the cemetery was to even visit. And now that they do, they just have this bittersweet feeling of, we're connected to this, we're just now finding out where it's located, and we have no time to try and fight it.
And so what happens next?
Well, this is really interesting because as it stands, this is supposed to be a 3-day relocation. By the end of this month, it's going to cost about $68,000, the city. I don't know what the responses are going to be like. That's the thing about doing these stories. I don't have an agenda here other than informing the public. I want them to know and weigh in, good or bad, especially if they have family there. We already know they've approved it, so short of the courts getting involved, I don't really see it getting delayed unless the city says, you know what, we're going to pump the brakes just a little bit. We followed all the rules. We put notice in the newspaper 4 weeks in a row. We notified everyone who we reasonable could find. But in an effort to be sensitive and open, we're just going to extend it just a little bit longer. I could see that happening. But he also makes a good point. These people are going to get perpetual care. Their graves will get perpetual care. At the new location, families will be able to visit easily. You saw the gate there. We had to be escorted onto the property. There are some that I think are really upset and may take it to the next level, but I really don't know at this point. I just know that a lot of people are just now finding out, and we're 2 weeks away from this starting to move.
Oh my goodness. I mean, really, you can do so much to preserve the dignity of the burial and with the relocation and, like you said, giving it the care, but there's still that connection to the site and then learning of it and just the whole process of how did we get to here.
And these people were farmers. I mean, they were here before Monroe existed. So these are people that in some way are natives to this area. Some will call them founders to some degree. And it's just so challenging. The historical investigation the city launched did not determine that it was not eligible to be a historic site.
Oh, okay.
Because there's certain requirements you need to make, and their investigation, which they contracted with an anthropology firm, determined that it's just not eligible. There's not enough elements there to make it that. But those gravestones are so ornate. They're handwritten. I mean, if you think about how old they are, it just amazes me that people back then were able to have the wherewithal to do that. But they did that for a reason, too. And I think that that's something that I can certainly sympathize and empathize with people in this situation because, man, their families were there for a reason, loved ones, or they hired someone to do this beautiful work on these headstones, and for whatever reason, it kind of got forgotten, the location did. And there's economic development. This is an industrial zoned area. I think that's a real trigger for people. The fact
Yes.
that that's
Right.
like the end game here is the economic development.
Right. That doesn't make things any easier.
Right, and that's kind of what really drew my interest. I knew they were relocating, and then I found out why, and I thought, the public really needs to be able to kind of weigh in, and at least for transparency reasons, see it. I don't believe they were hiding anything. There's no evidence that they've been trying to hide this. They went to the public hearing. They made some public notices. You can find the documents online that are related to this if you know what to look for. I just think the question is, are they moving too fast? Is, from the family's perspective, a fair question.
Right. And like you said, you got a lot of reaction already on social media and then the community at large in Monroe, right? What are they saying?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a polarizing issue, honestly. I mean, especially I'm communicating with two different people in particular that are really on both ends of this, and maybe some might see an extreme way. Generally, the answers are usually in the middle, and I think that I'll be curious over the next day or two what kind of feedback they get. I know that the city was actually welcoming for us to come out there because at least what they're telling me is they want to find other people and hear from other people.
Oh, okay.
They want to make the phone call. They want to allow them to come out and visit and pay their respects if they'd like to. It's a delicate situation, and I think from the institution of the city, people are concerned that maybe this process could have been a little bit slower. Maybe they could have done some more things to help market the situation. But at this point, we're so far removed from the first death there that people could be spread out all over the country, maybe even all over the world, too. It's probably hard to reach out to those people, but do they deserve
to know?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely they do.
All right,
Well,
yes.
maybe your story, because you said it's blowing up online, maybe that will be the thing that helps travel and far out, and people can remember, like, maybe, my lineage is there, and look into it.
Yeah, that's what I want people to do. I want people to see this is Billywood Cemetery. That's what it's called.
Okay.
I want them to know about it, and I want them to, if they have family there, reach out and share, good or bad, their thoughts on it. I just think that that's the way the process needs to work. And thank goodness someone let me know about this, because otherwise the public at large would have no clue right now.
Right. So 170 descendants, only 15 have responded so far.
And there are more than 170 because we've been able to find a few others.
Okay. All right. Very good. Nate Morabito, more to come, I'm sure, from the city of Monroe and the relocation of a historic, a very long-standing cemetery, making room for economic development. Thanks for bringing us that story, as always.
All right, Jane, thanks.
Yeah, it's so great to have Nate on our team. There are so many different stories that he has filed over on WCNC.com that you can look at that have made people pay attention, have even gotten people in Raleigh, the state seat, to pay attention and really change laws because of certain stories he's written. One that pops up in my mind is the Buried series, where we looked for coal ash under a playground. So these stories are really enlightening, and truly, this is the heart of journalism, and why really WCNC Plus is the perfect platform to have stories like that on, because we can expound and give you more information. So that's why we ask you to keep it on all day. Let your friends and family know to download WCNC Plus as well. We have been, again, focused on Alicia Watts and that story, as it is 2 years tomorrow that she was reported missing. We know James Dunmore is the suspect in this case with the alleged a murder, obviously, of Alicia Watts. And we are getting more information from family and friends. So Jesse Pierre has another interview for us, I believe, one of the friends that she spoke to about her perspective on Alicia Watts.
So you were friends with her and you also worked with her?
Yeah, so we work together on the board here at the nonprofit organization, the Southern Pines Land and Housing Trust. And then we also engage in community events in West Southern Pines.
Okay. So kind of just talk to me as we, this week, and first, thank you for making yourself available. This week, as we're marking 2 years since, she was last seen, and then also 2 years since she was first reported missing by family members and so forth. What does this mean to you, or what comes to your mind as we approach this, I guess, anniversary, right? This tragic anniversary.
So 2 years, it feels like it's still a long process. And, during that process, we knew it was going to take some time, and it is still taking time. losing someone in the way that we lost her, it's a huge healing process. The communities, is still learning how to process that. The biggest thing is just seeking justice and making sure it's done in the right way. Also, continuing to make sure that her story is told and that her story being told benefits someone else, and it can help women in a manner that could save a life.
When it comes to the time frame when she was missing, what were the hardest moments during that time? And talk to me about how you jumped into action with others during that time.
So there was a group called Boots on the Ground, which we went out to various towns and cities to, just get the word out, let people know what our mission was, to make sure that they knew the story of Alicia Watts. And that was very hard emotionally as well as physically, because we did a lot of walking and moving around. But um, it was a duty as a community member to make sure that close friends and close family members had that comfort in knowing that people were trying to get justice, that the word was getting out, and that any information that could be found or could help the case was being worked on. And so us going out into the community, stopping in small neighborhoods, local gas stations, just running into people on the street, letting them know that, we're looking for a friend, we're heartbroken, we're hurt, we're seeking justice. So many people were willing to help and to just keep the word out there. It was emotionally hard, but we also knew that the work that we were doing was also going to bring comfort to those very, very close to her.
And so now the pictures that you sent me, this is not from necessarily searching for her. This is after, like, giving information out. Is that what
The pictures that I sent are recaps of that process when we were searching for her. We were searching for her, but we were also letting people know, like, she's a loved one, she's an advocate in this community, she means a lot to us. And I will say that a lot of those locations that we stopped at, that we made friends with, that checked in on the community and family and friends, they still followed up afterwards. After she was found, they still kept in contact, which is very important, because in this day, here we are at a 2-year anniversary, that support is still needed. And I encourage those same locations and those same people and same organizations to continue to follow up and keep in contact with us.
There were so many twists and turns in this case and so forth, in this investigation, the trial, everything, like, well, not trial, but the hearings and so forth. When you heard of, her remains being found, or, hearing that James Dunmore, the man that she was seeing, was arrested in connection to her death and so forth, talk to me about what went through your mind knowing those things, and if there was anything that stood out more than others as far as being shocking or devastating and so forth.
It was definitely heartbreaking. It's a kind of news that could just tear your whole heart apart. No one ever wants to get that kind of news, that their loved one was left the way that she was. There was a sense of comfort because we knew we had something concrete and now we could move forward to get that justice, but it's never easy to get that kind of news. You also kind of, you try not to move with hatred in your heart. So the best way to move forward in it is saying, we need the justice. We need to see this move forward. And, he needs to get exactly what is deserved of what he did to Alicia.
Like you mentioned, it does take a long time, right? When we're talking about this entire process and so forth. And there were different things that came out as far as her remains or cause of death being listed as undetermined. And then there was also the judge stating that the state violated Dunmore's constitutional rights, but then chose not to dismiss the case and so forth. As we continue down this line, how do you guys hold on or stay strong, through this legal process?
At the end of the day, God is in control, and He is the one that will help us through this hard time. Again, close friends and family are still heartbroken, are still trying to work through this, but with the strength of God and praying and keeping Him first and foremost in everybody's lives, like that's what's keeping everybody at a level of trusting and knowing that at the end of this, we will get the outcome that we'll get.
And then when it comes to Alicia, what do you what are some things you want people to remember about her? And what are the things you remember the most, or your favorite memories and so forth?
Alicia was hilarious. She was always excited about having a good time. She always talked about some of the events that she was going to be going to or things that she wanted to do. Actually, the last event that I went to of hers that she assisted with putting together was a sip and paint event. It was so much fun. It was so vibrant. Everybody from the community came out to enjoy it. We all got to know each other a little better. And so she was always an advocate for that. She has a lot of great friends and family. We were able to get to know them a lot better through this process, and all still keep in contact. So what she brought was unity. And I'm just grateful to have known her and began to know her in that time.
And you mentioned it a little bit, already about keeping her name in the spotlight and her sharing her story and how it can help other women. Talk to me a little bit more about that and, why that's so important.
Absolutely. So there is, amongst the group that the friends and family that assisted with trying to keep information going, also getting the information out in various towns and counties. There has been a scholarship developed, the Alicia Watts Scholarship, that's going to highlight a future student that would go into the field in which she was working in. It's going to help encourage them to move forward in that career, and it's going to give back to the community, which we know that that's exactly what she would want to do.
Perfect. And then I guess, I mean, I spoke to a couple of people, and I know whatever happens with Dunmore doesn't bring Alicia back, you know what I mean? But what's the, I guess, not win, but what does justice look like for you guys?
Justice, I believe, looks like we do get that win, because that's important, and that her name and her story, again, will be able to help and assist someone else to know how to better protect themselves, how to know when to steer a different direction, but also to understand the importance of community and togetherness.
All right. Again, tomorrow marks 2 years since Alicia Watts was reported missing. We'll continue to try and hunt down the answers. And as suspect James Dunmore maybe makes his way back into court, of course, we'll be back there for all those happenings. We want to let you know that tonight we have a 1-hour special that'll be streaming called Hearts and Heroes, as you can see on the screen, flooding in the Texas